Hey, that's what I'm talking about. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, Gog peoples of the world. Welcome, everyone. I hope all are doing well, and I hope you're looking forward to what promises to be an awesome session today of D&D with GOG, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, as we continue on in our our coastal-based and Greyhawk-based campaign with the crew. I'm very excited, and it's going to be some good times. And yes, I love that music myself. I'm a big fan of it, and we are here and ready to go. Before we get started, just a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to follow us here on GOGCom's channel. We appreciate that very much. Please make sure to subscribe to us here on GOGCom's Twitch channel, because you can get those custom sub badges and emotes to use everywhere across Twitch, and it does support the streamer crew, of which there are a number of us. And if you haven't done so, please consider clicking through to those individual channels of the various streamers on this channel, because we have a lot of our own subsystems and Patreons and all that kind of good stuff that can help as well. It's good to see everyone. I am very much excited for this, and I am looking forward to what we got going on today. By the way, just as a quick scheduling note, Ghosts of Saltmarsh is happening today. Next week will be the rescheduled Talisman Adventures, sponsored as always by Pegasus Spiele. And then the week after that will be the first week of April, and I will be getting started with a new video game for me on this channel, and that is Dragon's Dogma. So I'm super excited about that, and that's going to be good times. Yes, though that is correct, Echo, 100% correct. And yes, you can do that if you wish to inspire our players, and our players are in a bit of a pickle, I think it's fair to say. So we will see, but I have no doubt they will do just fine, as I have unmuted myself and apologize as always to them for interrupting them completely accidentally, which is what is the case. And I will now unmute them and head over to reveal the Ghosts of Saltmarsh crew Sans 1. We are -1, just for, not for that long though. We will have, of course, Peripheral Mike will be joining us shortly. But in the meantime, we have this other, we happy few, only two of whose characters are currently conscious out of the group that we have with us. One of them is currently unconscious, and it was a bit of a, it was a bit of a thing in our last session, as we will discuss. But before I get there, I do want to welcome these amazing players, and I will start right below on the screen by asking the fearless stream team leader with a fully functional pop filter to talk to us. I know it's like too soon, Arv, too soon. It's only because of the creaking of it was just sort of cracking me up. It was. Anyway, it was good times. I'm sorry about your pop filter, but I'm not sorry that you're with us, Pyron Jade. How are you? How's life in the universe with you, and who are you playing today?
We're not talking about life in the universe today.
Okay.
we just did.
Never mind.
Yeah, I have a real cheap pop filter on this, and the whole thing has kind of come loose, and there's nothing I can do to make it fit again, and so it's like falling down and then making this very sad noise, like
Yep.
It's
Wah,
just
wah,
as
wah,
hell.
wah.
So yeah. Me, I'm playing
My name is.
Waves Crashing Against Rocks, and and
Trigger,
I
trigger.
and I'm playing a Kenku Kaladin. Kenku Kaladin, yes, of course. I'm playing a Penku Kaladin. I'm playing a Kenku Paladin.
It sounded like you said Kenku Colony, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, when did you become a colony of Kenku?
Now we have a whole colony of Kenkus.
Yeah, really?
And you have to DM this.
Wow. Waves,
This
like
is-
full, like plural, multiple Kenku.
For those of you who don't know, Kenku are kind of bird people, and they don't really speak. They only repeat speech and noises they have heard, which they can repeat very accurately. And they are also not really creative from like their own thing. They can copy things, but for example, they couldn't make an original work of art. They could copy yours though. So they're kind of like the internet, and they like remember everything, they copy everything, but they don't make anything themselves.
Kind of like the internet. That's super depressing, and I'm going to think quite a bit about that today. The Kenku, kind of like the internet. Like, oh man.
Yep. And currently she's a bit knocked down, but she'll get up again.
She is a bit. That's true. No one's ever going to keep her down. She's a bit not conscious at the moment.
Yes,
but it will be fine. Yeah, it'll be good. And actually, it was to save Waves that the party ended up making the decisions that they made, which we will discuss in just a moment. Moving right along down the line, it is, of course, my great pleasure to welcome back Darksaber 2K to the fold. This is after Pyron, Darksaber, and I gave everyone a very positive, cooperative experience with Talisman last week, where everyone was just working together, and I think it's in that spirit that I want to. I'm just kidding, but it was a lot of fun last week, and this week we have got the return of Darksaber and Morthwill. Good to see you, Saber. Thank you as always for Move Button Dashboard, etc. And how's life with you? And who are you playing in our shenanigans today?
I'm all right, thanks for asking. Just getting over a bit of illness. If you hear a bit of cold type noises or bunged up,
I know the feeling.
That's that. A little confused that I appeared not to be playing Fallout New Vegas tonight, because it seems to have been dominating my time a lot lately.
That's true. Yeah, you have been playing that a lot. Even when you played Outer Worlds, you're like, I really want to just play Fallout New Vegas instead.
So I just played Fallout New Vegas instead. I'm having a blast when things aren't blowing me up, which is everything. At one point, I had everything crippled except my legs. So at least I could walk to the nearest doctor.
Of which there are many in the world of Fallout for some reason.
Yes. And free tetanus shots, which is always a bonus.
Yes, agreed.
But yeah, tonight I'll be taking over again as a Morthwill Gagoniant, a dwarven artificer who is starting to regret several choices about not leaving these people to their harebrained schemes, but just can't really bring himself to just walk away because it wouldn't be the right thing to do. The smart thing to do, but not the right thing to do.
It is. I do wonder a little bit what would have happened if we combined Celsig with this crew, and I don't know, and put Morthwill with the other crew, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like Greta and Morthwill would have spent their whole time high-fiving each other, and Celsig would have noped out in episode 2 of this, and it's like, the hell with this. I'm
Like,
bailing.
Celsig? Oh, there's the rowboat over there.
Yeah, I'm heading into Kalen, man. I'm done with this nonsense. Yeah. So we will. I look forward to seeing what happens with our artificer. Because there may be some need for your particular skills, your special skills, so to speak. So we will see whether that happens just a minute. But always a pleasure to have Saber with us. Again, Peripheral Mike will be joining us. As they say that, here. Peripheral Mike will be, and there he is.
Sort of nowish.
Yeah, sort of at the moment. So I will have to fix the pictures. That's fine, chat. Fear not. Nobody panic. It'll be fine. We'll just get this all taken care of, and I'll have everyone back the way they're supposed to be in just a moment, because we have been joined again. So I'm going to, as I'm figuring this all out, I'm going to try to put the person who had not gone yet, which was, of course, Ananda. I'm going to have Ananda introduce herself, and then I will promptly and then bring you over to Mike, who has just joined us. I mean, by which I mean, of course, Silvo, clearly, who has just joined us. So there we go. Now I think Ananda is captured properly. So yes, hi Ananda, welcome. Good to see you as always. I hope all is going okay with you. How is life in the universe and all those sorts of things with you? And who are you playing today?
I am ticking along, thank you, rolling with the punches, as you do. Excuse me. I've also got a persistent cough, which has been going on for ages. So last time we played, when I was doing lots of talking, it kept kicking it off. So I'm going to try and keep it at bay today. But yeah, I'm ticking along, thank you. In my channel, I've been continuing on with Ananda's Indies. So currently playing through Valheim, Chicken Police, and Road 96. Chicken Police and Road 96. I started over here and then continued on over there.
I just thought of combining those
Police
together, Ananda, of Valheim and Chicken Police, and I was just like, that would be not a game that I would imagine as a combination. But maybe
one day
One
the
day.
two paths will meet. But one of my mods has also turned me into a streaming cat on Twitter, so that was fun.
Awesome.
One of my mods is just the most amazing at Photoshop, so it's always a pleasure. Today I am continuing playing Brine the Bloodthirsty, who is a water genasi fighter. We're all at level 2 at the moment, so still fairly early levels. We discovered last session that my AC had been wrong.
Yeah, considerably lower, actually. Yeah,
considerably lower than what it should have been. So that's been rectified now. We are on this ship. I do love some of her character traits. The fact that she can breathe underwater, which makes infiltrating ships like this super stealthy.
Yep.
Succeeded some of those roles, got onto the ship, and now everything's hit the fan and we're being captured again.
It was going so well, and then just some bad luck. Yeah,
but I'm not unconscious, which is a novelty.
that's funny. That's true. You actually, for the first time, did not hit the ground. No, not the first time, but yes, you've often been. It's unusual for Waves to be the one that you had to go save.
Yes.
So.
But I mean, I thought I was being super clever by trying to take the mage out on the other side of the ship. Turns out I should have been protecting my brethren slightly more closely.
Well, I mean, and in the end, you did, you did sort of attract enough attention to stop the potential slaughter of our almost expired Kenku, which I'm desperately trying to avoid. The Monty Python, this parrot has shuffled off this mortal coil. I'm just saying.
It's a dead parrot.
It's shoving out the choir in Visibule.
I'm not dead. I'm just pining for the fjords.
Pining for the fjords.
Oh man, to be. It is a dead parrot.
It is an X. As he says, does he say it's an X parrot?
It is an X parrot.
Oh man, so we will see. But yes, Brian's definitely Brian's sort of knowledge. I believe it was a threat that Brian had actually to send them down to Davy Jones' locker if they harmed Waves, is something that might have slowed them down. Silvo then threatened to blow up the boat. Morthwill had the Mexican standoff with the shield with the gem glowing at them. It was very much like no one wanted Waves to die, including chat did not want Waves to die. So, but
yeah,
it's always
my intimidation as well, which helps on
Yep.
pirate ships and things.
Absolutely,
So.
and you may have need of that insofar as the situation we're dealing with is going to be difficult potentially. But I have faith in this party. Thank you, Ananda. Always a pleasure to have you with us, and it's also a pleasure to now be able to speak to someone who is now available, and that, of course, is our good friend Peripheral Mike, who is back with us. It is good to see you, Mike. I'm glad you've joined us here, and we're ready to go. While you were out, the ship and you all were destroyed, so we've opened a new campaign. I'm just kidding.
Excellent.
None of that actually happened. How are you doing, Mike? How's life?
Level 10 Warforged, here I come.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Mark 2.
no, not accurate. How are you doing? How's life in the universe with you?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, apologies for being a little bit late. I had to make and subsequently eat dinner, so you may see me duck off of screen a little bit every now and then just to eat some food. But besides that, I'm doing fantastic. Work, doing a lot of work right now, which is probably why I'm not streaming so much. Work has ramped up considerably, so apologies for my absence from the internet. Oh, and also a little thing called Elden Ring. Yeah, by work I mean Elden.
Work, also Elden
That's
Ring.
exactly. Yes. Yes. Every time I mention work now, I say Elden Ring. Even work are asking now how Elden Ring is going, even though they have no idea what it is, but they're following my very long Twitter thread on Elden Ring, and they're fascinated, but they have no idea what it is. But today I'm going to be hopping into the tattered boots of Silvo Janus Betulus, our half-elven sorcerer, with a somewhat flaky disposition sometimes, who has just been knocked unconscious, I believe, or no, he's just come back from being unconscious, and now we shall see how that affects him.
Yes, I was going to say because yeah, and we'll talk about that actually when we get that started. That you are theoretically unconscious, at least were for a little bit. And
we'll lean into that shortly.
Yes, indeed. But it is a great pleasure to have everyone with us, and let us show you a little bit what the ship looks like. Because as I mentioned last time, there's been a lot of stuff that went down here, and it's been an interesting experience. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I got my. There we go. Good. All right. I want to make sure that I had that thing working properly, and of course we need to make sure that we've got some music, some sound going on here. So let's fire that up. Okay. Ocean Voyage, and let's go with that. Lovely, perfect. All right, now we've got a little bit. Now we've got the right setting, the sound of the spray, the movement, the rocking of the ship, and so forth. Now we have all of that ready to go. In our last session, the incredible crew of that you see before you, which has been attempting to unwind what is clearly a smuggling operation on behalf of the town of Saltmarsh, has made its way onto this ship, a ship called the Sea Ghost. The information that they had about this Sea Ghost originally came to them from, as I zoom out so I can actually see myself, originally came to them from the information that they had gathered when they were in the, quotes, haunted house, which was not actually haunted, but was in fact a front for a smuggling operation. The party managed to get through all of that, managed to work through that house and gather some information, although it was not perfect because they found someone who really kind of outclassed them, Sanballat, who was a wizard of some considerable power and who had some connection with Silvo. Nonetheless, they were able to find books and information about this particular ship that was supposedly where these smugglers would bring stuff from the town and the surrounding environs, bring it to this dock, basically, that was below the level of this, in quotes, haunted house, and then the ship would send boats out. They would send boats out back to the ship, and there you go. So the party said, first of all, we need to stop the smuggling operation. Secondly, as the party made quite clear to all of us, they want a ship. So they decided that they would go and deal with stuff on the Sea Ghost. They made the first part of this infiltration fairly effectively, as has been pointed out. They arrived without people noticing, but then things started to go south. They did eventually get noticed, and they got involved in a major battle on the deck of the ship, which raged on multiple levels, and which has been pointed out, involved the fighting of wizards and battling back and forth of ranged combat and things like that, and multiple bandits and the like. And although what you're looking at here is still, you've got the mage up on that top level, you've got the first mate, you've got 4 bandits, you've got probably the cook, and then you've got the captain right next to Waves. But that's actually considerably down from what the crew started as. The party actually did a pretty good job in wiping out a lot of the crew, but not all of them. And at the end of the session, they found themselves in very difficult spot. Silvo was at 1 hit point. Morthwill had been injured a little bit, 13 out of 16. Brine had been hurt, although not as much as Brine thought she was hurt. But Brine was still hurt with 15 out of 25 hit points, and Waves was on the ground with 0, and basically was being threatened by the captain, who said he would kill Waves if the party did not stand down. There was a big, as I say, Mexican-style standoff, and then eventually Morthwyl threw his shield down. Brine sheathed her swords after threatening them if they did anything to Waves. And then Silvo said, we're not going to fight you, but if you kill her, then I will tear this ship apart from the inside out, something like that. So the captain lowered his sword and in his last order demanded that these 4 crew members here, our crew, I mean, would be brought down to what he classified as the brig. And that was where we left off. Now, one other comment I want to make is that as you were being led down to this, in quotes, brig, there was a hissing sound that was coming from the room right next to where Silvo and where Brine are standing right now. A serpent-like hissing as of a snake or something like that, or multiple snakes actually, coming from that region. So I just wanted to remind everybody that thing had actually happened. The other thing is that Silvo, on his way down, was actually passed out. And so Silvo is unconscious as they were brought into things. Now, when you're brought all the way down, it turns out that you're not brought to a brig as such. It means that you were actually brought down into something considerably more. Oh my goodness, Peripheral Mike with a subscription. Thank you so much for the Peripheral Mike GOG sub.
Yeah, that's gifted by Echo Alpha. Thank you, Echo.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, yeah, thank you, Echo. Very nice.
Thank you very much, Echo.
Thanks, Echo. So there we go. The GOG alerts are there, and 60 gift subs. Good grief. Thanks, Echo. So when you get down to that bottom level of the brig, as I'm about to reveal to you, it's not really what we would classify as a brig. I am going to reveal this area, and then I'm going to bring you lovely folks down to there, and then I'm going to hand control back over to you. So we've got one, we've got Silvo, and then once you're down in these places, you can position yourself wherever you like. And last one is Morthwyl. Okay. And it's down here. Now let me describe what it is that you actually see. Okay, there we are. Let me describe a little bit about what the 4 of you see. From the hatchway, you can see a little of what lies in the gloom below, and this is before you are literally pushed in. Oh my God. Echo Alpha with the tier 1 sub, 60 months, 60 years over 100 tentacles. Thank you, Echo, very much for the sub. We appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. So you see the gloom below, and then you are all pushed into it, and Waves just kind of flops onto, the thing I'm about to describe and lies there, as does Silvo, who's unconscious. Brine and Morthwyl, you are, of course, both awake. This area stretches the full width of the ship, and for all you can see, the full length, for there are no bulkheads in view. What must be the bottom of the ship is covered with a thick layer of wet sand, which is presumably ballast, and on top of it, and in which all of you are currently sitting/lying, is an inch or so of green, greasy water. There's a scuttling noise toward the stern, which indicates there's some life down here, perhaps living off the garbage thrown in occasionally by the lazy crew, for there are heaps of trash immediately below the hatch that have formed small islands in the fetid water. A particularly large one has accumulated at the base of the mast, and as you move your light back and forth, you catch a yellow reflection in one of the garbage piles. There is a rather unfortunate scent down here, and it appears that you have been thrown into the bilge, and that apparently is what they're classifying as a brig for your imprisonment. And with that said, I'm going to hand things over first of all to Morthwyl and Brine, who are the only people currently conscious.
Well, what a lovely smell we've liberated.
Yes, it is. It's a little bit pungent. Just a question.
Sure.
For kind of RP purposes. Have they taken our inventory? Do we still have everything?
They have taken at the moment your weapons, but they disarmed you, but they did not remove armor or like inventory otherwise, like backpack stuff and all that. But they have taken your weapons before they threw you down here.
Okay. Is there any light source down here?
There really isn't, other than what you bring. I was sort of assuming, actually, when I described that part about the light, I assumed that you were either going to look through the light, although you don't have dark vision, right, Brian?
No, I don't.
So, but Morthwill does. So Morthwill will be able to see. I would assume Morthwill, you have like a little light gem, I think, that you could theoretically use. But correct me if I'm
I
wrong.
can craft
about
any tiny item into a light source. So,
okay. So yeah, maybe you don't see anything, Brian. Morthwill, maybe you do describe what I've described, and then you can start sort of assembling maybe something to make into a light source. The only light that you see, Brian, is right at the center, that little thing in the middle. That's the mast, and right at the sort of top of the area that you are, which again is the bottom area of the ship, there is that little hatchway through which you were pushed. That has now been closed, but it's basically like a cross, like a crosshatch, like a grate, basically, right? So you do see a little light, but very little, just enough to kind of see around the base of the mast.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to Morthwill and say, I can't see a damn thing. Do you have any lights? I have a torch, but I don't know if anything down here is flammable. Maybe you can have a look to see if you can find torch.
I can wrestle something up. Hold on a second. So he looks around for like a suitable tiny non-magic object, something of pebble size.
Right.
So he's probably going to have to poke the debris field. So it's a good time to actually examine the thing that's shiny as well while he's at it.
Okay.
Yellow shiny thing.
Of the yes, the shiny thing. When you go over to the shiny thing, and you're looking at it, you can see as you get closer to it, and just bear with me for 1 second, you can see that there is what looks like a gleaming gold. There's something like gleaming and gold, which is reflecting your light. But there's also something else, Morthwill. I need you to make a perception check for me, please.
Okay. Do that with guidance. I won't bother with the guidance.
What did you get? I have my dice rollers.
I have 4.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's see. That should be. Why is that not popping up? Oh, there we go. It just didn't. Yeah, for some reason, it took forever to just show up on my thing. Okay, so a 4. Yeah. So you don't know what it is, but there is very clearly something which is writhing around near the gold. And you don't know what that is, but it's sort of like slithering and writhing, and every so often it kind of passes over it. And very clearly, you're not going to be able to reach this gold thing without contending with whatever that thing is.
You might want to keep everyone away from the shiny thing. There's something moving over there.
Okay, good to know. Could you just shine that light over here, just for a moment?
I don't have an actual light source. I need to, again. Is there a less moving pile of debris I can get something tiny off?
Yes. Well, there's a lot of moving. There is a lot of movement, and actually, as you reach in, something slithers past your hand, and first you're like, and then it seems like it's a waterlogged rat. There are probably a number of rats down here, in addition to whatever you saw slithering was not a rat, but there are definitely rats down here too. That said, though, yeah, there is lots of like, junk and broken wood and half-eaten food, and it's pretty bad. Very much to jump out of game for a minute, garbage compactor in Death Star, that stuff.
Yeah, the word Dianoga was in my mind for some reason.
Yep.
There's something alive in here.
Nothing mechanical that you can see per se, but there is a lot of like little metal studs and doodads and things like that, like just junk that would be on a ship that's broken and they just throw down here.
A little metal stud would do quite appropriately, I think. So I just grab that and scratch away at it with my lockpick, which luckily they didn't confiscate from me.
Mm-hmm.
They also didn't take my carpenter's tools, so I saw a hole in the hull. No, I'm just kidding.
and then you go out and be like, we won, and they're like, we didn't get the ship, and you see the ship going out like,
we took it with us.
Yeah, we took it with us. Yeah. So you do those things. You're able to do that. It takes you what, 10 minutes to
one action.
Oh, oh, well then.
Yeah, it's super quick.
Okay. So then, now you have this little glowing metal, what looks like it was a rivet of some sort.
Yeah, and so I pass that over to Brian. I think that's is that 6 feet by 6 feet. The range. I just need to double check. I've got it here somewhere.
Also, I should say, by the way, that this is not very tall overall. Like on the top of the mound of garbage, it's probably, you actually have to duck, Brian, because at the top of that pile of garbage, that big one near the mast, it probably would only be about 4 feet to the top. Even below in the regular water, it's maybe like, I don't know, 5.5, 6 feet. So there's not a lot of headroom here, just so you know.
Okay.
I feel quite comfortable. Yes,
you're fine.
it's bright for 5 feet and dim for 5 feet with this.
All right, perfect. I'm gonna stoop a little bit just so my hat doesn't scrape on the roof of the section of the boat, and I'm gonna rummage around in my backpack. Where is it? Oh, mistake. Where is it? Okay, and then I'm gonna pull out one of the 2 doses of healing potion I have.
Okay.
And I'm gonna gently pour it into Wave's mouth. Which is 2d4 plus 2.
All right, go ahead and roll that to see how much that does for healing her, and then. There we go.
That was.
Oh, jeez.
That could have been better.
Yeah.
That could have been better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's better than 0. And so, Waves, your eyes kind of flicker open, and. You're on something squishy and something smells really bad. Also, your head is pounding, Waves, from something being knocked out, pain, etc.
Okay.
I'm going to say, it's okay. Don't panic. That fight didn't go quite as well as we'd hoped. We're still on the ship.
Yeah.
That's a bonus. However, I'm afraid we haven't got our weapons, and we're stuck down here. It's a bit grim, but just catch your breath. And I go and check on Silver.
Okay, I just was cracking up at this summary. Like, so we're in, everything's grim. We're in big trouble. But it's okay. Just everything was like everything is worse.
Relax.
Waves knocks herself out to leave again.
Well, that's been going on. Morthoil's been pulled out a handkerchief and he stitched a little flower onto it, and you get a little whiff of flowers, and he ties it around his mouth and nose and sits there with some very smug eyebrows because now all he smells is flowers.
Very nice. Yes, much better than what was there. Brian, when you go over to Silvo, at this point, I would say, Silvo, your eyes start to kind of flutter, open again. As you come back to yourself, your head is pounding. Your back hurts, and something smells terrible. And as you open your eyes, can just make out the outline of what clearly is Brian looking over you with some concern.
I'm going to kind of repeat the same thing, but to Silvo with a hand on his shoulder. It's fine. Nothing to worry about. The fight didn't go quite as we planned. So we're stuck in here at the moment, but it's fine. We're all together, and we can find a way out of this. We've been through worse. Can I tell by Silvo's injuries? He's obviously looking pretty hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
He's looking pretty beaten up right now. He got absolutely clobbered by some of the sailors. So.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna give my last of my 2 doses of healing potion to Silvo, which is another 2d4 plus 2.
Okay.
2d4 plus 2. 2.
Which is 9. It was a slightly better roll than I did.
Hey, lovely.
That's more like it.
There's a sudden sort of as Silver sounds like fully come conscious and sort of.
Don't breathe too deeply. That's my recommendation.
So this went about as well as expected then.
It could have gone worse. We're all together, and we're still on the ship. So
how long have I been unconscious?
I'm gonna say, but I don't know, Half.
Oh, I didn't want to jump in, and I was like, I'm interested to find out myself. No, I would say probably you've been down here maybe 20, 25 minutes. I would say.
Okay, it's fine. It's been quite quick. It's maybe 25 minutes, half an hour, but it's fine. We know that we're not alone down here, but let's just make sure that you keep all your fingers and toes kind of in the vicinity of the light, so we can see what else is down here.
I don't understand it.
Something slithers past your ear, Silvo.
Oh, God, get off. Wait, where's my stuff? Wait. Silver just start clutching at his chest like, oh, it's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Everything else is fine.
Okay, well, we don't have anything pointy, but let's see if we can improvise, shall we? And I'm desperately just trying to get the morale up a little bit. It's like, come on, we've been in worse situations than this. And I venture, like, with the light further towards where the slithering was. Is it something that, can I see the slithering? Is it something as a water genasi that I might be able to recognize if it's an aquatic creature?
Make a perception check for me. Let's find out.
Oh, I will do my best. Perception. No.
The answer to that is not so
just
much.
No.
Yeah. It's hard to make out. It's not likely to be a sea sort of based creature, if you had to guess. And in fact, the sense that you get is that this is something which is, you just catch like a little flash of white at one point wriggling, but that's pretty much it. But it's definitely, there's a fair bit of, it might even be more than one thing that's slithering around this golden something or other that is reflecting in your light.
Okay, can I have a look round then for a piece of driftwood or something that...
Oh, there's plenty of that.
Well, if something that's got sharp, that's been like cut off at a point. I want something sharp, something that I can improvise as.
Make an investigation check for me. This won't be difficult, I don't think. Also, one question, Ananda. Now I have a proposition for you. Are you willing to, if you're willing to dig deep into the garbage, you're more likely to find what you need, but you will also theoretically run into whatever else is slithering around down below you. So the question is, are you willing to do that and take that chance or not? Or do you just want to kind of keep it near the surface?
I have a counter question for you.
Okay.
You said that there is some like sludgy water.
Mm-hmm.
If I was dragged down, is it water that I would be able to breathe in? Would I know?
Yes, and also this is not very much water. This is like a foot. So it's more the muddy sand and junk and other things that we don't want to talk about that's down here that's making it. So it's honestly not very much water. But yes, you could theoretically breathe in that.
Okay, in which case I'm going to dig and investigate.
In that case, I will have you make that check at advantage then.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm going to roll twice because I'm not sure how to roll automatically with advantage. It's investigation, yes?
Yeah, and if you click on the investigation check, it may give you both numbers, actually. It may give you, without even having to...
No, it's just rolled once.
Oh, just rolled once. All right, well.
9.
3 or a 9. Okay. It's... So here's what you find. You do find wood, but it's not sharp. Mostly it seems like it's kind of rotted down here, Brian. It seems like the water down here has, over time, kind of softened the wood, if anything. So you can find stuff that has little pieces, but the wood is all soft and rotten, not really very sharp, unfortunately. Oh, and also, while you're down there doing that, you do at one point get hold of a long something which slithers away from you. It might have been the tail of a rat which slithered away.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go towards where the yellow reflection, where the gold is. I'm not going to try and grab it, but I want to just have a look to see whatever's slithering around. Does it seem to be focusing on that? Does it seem to be protecting that? Does it seem to be kind of just...
Right. It definitely is not leaving the vicinity of that area. So there's other slithering things as we've discussed, but that thing in particular, whatever it is, does not seem to be leaving that particular pile of garbage, which is heaped higher than some of the other garbage that's down here. And I should also note, by the way, that there's the hatch, the hatchway basically above you. There is also another larger wooden grate through which they would actually put more bilge and stuff down below. And in fact, it's actually standing right above, it's placed right above where the four of you are right now. But there is a large piece of wood which has been placed over the top of it. So you have like the grate, and then you have wood, so you can't see anything through that. And then also, there's a hatchway that I described to you, which is the one that you were pushed down through. That's right near the mast, and that is where that big pile of garbage is.
Okay. I don't think the roles are updating in chat at the moment, by the way, just so you know.
It still didn't update.
Yeah, the last.
Yeah, it's not. I guess I'll just do. For some reason, it's not. There it is. It's not picking up on the player version, and I don't know why that is. It should be, but I don't know why. Anyway, I will try to address that problem. So
I will continue on. I'm gonna go and speak with Morthwheel, and I'm just say, we've been in worse scrapes than this, right? Have you had a look round? I know that you still have some tools with you. Is there any way of getting through that hatch up there?
See the point in getting through the hatch up there? There's just more of them pirates.
I'd rather be up there with those pirates than down here.
Those pirates is the reason we're down here.
I understand what you're saying. Are we actually sailing at the moment, or are we still stationary?
it does not feel like the ship has moved yet.
I'm just gonna say to Morthwheel, I think our fate might be slightly different if the people that were supposed to be bringing goods onto this ship via Sambalat get here before maybe we get out of this little predicament. I know they're due. I know we knocked out some of them, but they're going to realise that the infantry is still there.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't really see what else we can be doing right now. I mean, it's by Sambalat's will, allegedly, that we're here in the first place. Unless we could play that angle against them.
Quite possibly. I'm gonna continue kind of just like tapping, because obviously I've spent my life on ships.
Right.
Well, from a teenage upwards. And I'm just going to go tapping around walls and things and see if there is potentially another room on this level.
Okay.
Or whether this is genuinely like the bottom of the ship.
And just to be clear, the walls or tapping also the ceiling? Because remember, you can basically reach it. And the floor. So just let me know specifically, like, are you aiming for more of the walls, the floor, the ceiling, all three?
All of the above.
Okay. All right, I'm going to set you off to do that. While I'm doing that, Waves and Silvo, Waves, what are you doing as you've come to now?
I'll sit around for a while and just watch what's going on. And as soon as Brian starts like knocking on the walls, I'll follow her and try to do the same. Like I will copy her because apparently this is what is supposed to be done now, knocking on the walls.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'll follow Brian around and knock on the walls.
So do me a favor then, Brian. Why don't you move your token around those areas, and while you're doing that, Waves will follow you. And I will let you know in a moment about checks. Silvo, what about you?
Silvo basically crawls into a corner and starts sobbing.
Oh no. Oh no. I poke Brian.
I turn around and look at Waves.
I point towards Silvo.
I don't know what to do. I've given him my last health potion. I look at him like because obviously we try not to show as many feelings as possible, having been on a pirate ship, and we don't have pirates don't have feelings. Am I supposed to go and talk to him?
I shrug.
And then
I go over to Silvo and like pat him on the shoulder, like.
No, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I don't understand. I honestly thought you three were different, but all the scrapes we've been in, all the things we've been involved in, they've just ended up in pain and discomfort. I just can't do this anymore. Just leave me alone.
I mean, you willingly came with us, Silvo. No one forced you to.
No, you're right,
I elbow Brian in the ribs.
No, you're right, Brian. No one did force me. But when you're indebted to a criminal organization and your options are adventure or death, it's not exactly a choice, is it? It's a lack of options. And you have used to this sort of stuff. I'm not. I don't do this. I don't get into big fights on ships or try and save people from smuggling rings. This isn't my life. You seemed like you were all doing the right thing, but it all seems to come at the cost of someone's blood. And right now that's mine. And it's not, it just isn't. I just can't.
I mean, I'm gonna turn to Waves and just like point at the blood on her feathers as well and say, look, we're in this together. We're crew above everyone. We're here together now.
I am not part of your crew. You do not have a crew. You have 3 people who are following you around into life-threatening, dangerous situations, and you're putting everyone's lives at stake because you know how to get in and out of a fight. But we don't all know this.
He has a point,
Just leave me alone, okay? He's gonna walk over to basically this part of the ship, and you basically see him sit down. And if you were to examine him, you'd think he was praying because he has his hands like this in front of him.
I was making chains when I met you. I haven't even seen a fella get killed in 70 odd years.
Well, I mean, what can I say? I stepped in to help out. I didn't ask you to join me. You decided to join yourself. And I'm just going to continue on going around the ship, like knocking on the walls and the ceiling and just kind of sigh and roll my eyes and just continue on with what I'm doing.
Now that Brian has pointed out the blood splatters, I actually look at myself and see all the white feathers where I got bleached last time. And I do like this, like, and then just look down and say,
"This sucks."
Okay, Stream Deck functions again, but it has a delay. Still something. Yeah.
I'm going to turn around and say, I agree. It does suck. And I'm going to continue on checking the walls. And then the ceiling and the floor.
Okay. When you get to the stern, I believe, of the ship, stern of the area, so that would be...
So around here.
That'd be like, yeah, like that. When you get to the stern of the ship, I want you to make a perception, actually, 2 things. Make an investigation check first, Brian, and then Waves, if you're going to go and start following Brian again, like we were doing before, are you doing that?
Yeah, Silver doesn't want me. I'm not sure what Morthwell is doing, so I'll just copy Brian.
I'm going to come back to Morthwell in just a second. When you go over to Brian, I'd like you also to make an investigation check, please.
So investigation, not perception.
Not perception. Perception will be partially contingent on investigation.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay.
I got 15.
Waves, you feel like you're like knocking. You're like, I don't, because you see Brian is like tapping carefully, and then Brian, you hit something which you might have hoped that you would hit, and that is there is the sound of something hollow that is above you. Hollow as in something where the floorboard does not seem to be as thick or as secure. Now I would like you to make a perception check, please. Only you this time, not Waves.
Okay. 7.
Okay. Well, so you're just like, well, this is a floorboard. But it definitely does appear to be loose in that particular area. And let me, in fact, make it a specific place. That would be right here. So basically 1 square south of where you are is where you hear that hollow floorboard above you.
Would I, with my investigation check, obviously I'm not going to think, all right, I can pry the board up because I didn't get the investigation, or the perception, sorry. With the investigation check, would I be curious enough to point it out to Morthwell?
Oh, sure. And you actually, the perception check was not necessarily for that. You
Okay.
probably, since you know the board is there, you could try to push it up or, pry it loose or do something. If, you'll have to tell me how you're doing it, but you could do that regardless of the perception. That was for something else.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to keep tapping it just to double check. I keep moving along the board.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go, I'm going to call Morthwell over and say, come and check this out. This might be just what we've been looking for.
And it's only in this 1 square. As you tap around, it goes right back to the same dense, the floorboard is more secure, except in this one spot.
Morthwell doesn't react at first. He just seems to be he's looking at something on the other side of the hull.
I was coming to you next, Morthwell. What are you doing?
So yeah, he sort of doesn't react at first, but sort of suddenly he's not there, and then he is mentally.
Okay.
You suddenly say, "What was that? Sorry."
This might be what we're looking for. Just come and check this out. We might be able to move this.
What's it we're hoping to find on the other side?
Somewhere that's not here.
Water out there and pirates up there. I suppose at least it's dry.
Our rowboat will be here somewhere. If Silvo has decided he wants out, then I will happily help him onto the rowboat and he can be on his merry way. But we can't do anything whilst we're in here.
I can't help feeling everything I've done to help has only made things worse, though. Can't tell if you'd been dead by now if I weren't along, or you'd never be in this mess to begin with. He's getting a crowbar out of his pack as he says that.
Okay.
I ain't saying no, but I'm just saying.
I understand. I think we can all say the same thing. None of us a month ago would be expected to be here.
All right. So he gets out. He also gets out a carpenter's mallet from his toolkit, which, by the grace of Macabre, they left with him.
Okay.
And he starts probing around the plank with his tools.
Okay. Yeah, it does look as if one of them, and it may be because of just sort of rot in the back here, Morthwell, but it looks like there is one that, if you're careful, could be pried up. You are not sure if you can keep it from making a noise, though, when you do so. But you do think you might be able to pry it up enough that you could at least, probably the board and the board next to it would be enough for people to kind of squeeze through, at least, If any of you were a Goliath, this would be a problem, but I think probably most of you would be able to squeeze through with some difficulty. But again, it might make some noise as you push the thing up.
Never thought I'd be saying this, but bless Macabre for shoddy maintenance. So he starts as carefully and quietly as he can try to get those boards up.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to have you make a dexterity check for me, please.
Okay. Great, but I will do that with guidance.
Also, hi, Tim Coolish, and hello, everyone who's come in. Good to see you all. Oh!
I won't even bother with the guidance. Well, I have a guidance banked
snap.
then.
So you just are like silently finish through, then your crowbar parkours off the wall into your pack. I mean, it's very dramatic.
It's like cutting paper.
Yeah,
like
just
a
like
knife.
zip, 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 like a power drill. Woo, 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 right? You're able to slide the board across, and because this thing, now remember, this whole thing is like you had to reach over your head to get to it, Morthwill, because it is about 5 feet up here. But it is now, I mean, if you were to, there's enough room that you could peek your head through or your body. Nothing so far has come at all because you were very quiet in doing this.
I'm just trying to think whose head would stand out less, and it's unfortunately probably mine. So I'll just carefully. Well, to be fair though, I'm only 4 foot. Yeah, 4.5 feet. So I'd probably have to overarm pull myself up if I couldn't get a lift.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Can I give him a boost?
Yes, I might need a foot up here.
I pull up myself next to the wall and just like let him stand on my back.
Okay.
Much appreciated, Brian.
So when you look carefully through the hole, what you see is this. And I'm going to bring us up here. No, I promise I'm going to. That's why. Okay. I'm going to bring us up here. There is a dark, cramped area, which is maybe, 6 feet wide at most or so, which has to be squeezed in between the back of the ship, between the stern, and then maybe this cabin next to it. And as you look up to your right, you can see that there is what looks like a closed and flush with the wood of the wall door. But look straight in front of you. There is a slim humanoid figure cowering in the far corner. He is chained to the hull, and he is almost certainly some kind of elf.
I immediately duck my head back down. He got some sort of elf chained to a wall in there. So I don't think it's quite the exit we was looking for, but we found a thing.
It might not be a direct exit out, but it's the first step in the ladder, as it were. I obviously can't see any light coming from there, so there's no point in me like peeking up to have a look. You say the elf is chained to the wall?
Aye, chained. Sure as I used to make him over in the harbour.
Now, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This could be exactly the same trap that we walked into in the haunted house. Don't forget
Which
what
one?
happened.
Have you any idea how little that narrows it down?
I'm trying to remember the dude's name, the one that was chained up that we went missing.
Ned Shakeshaft.
Yep.
That's the
Good
one.
old Ned.
Good. Yeah. This reminds me
Honest
a
Ned.
little bit of Ned's sad tale. So why don't we find out who he is before we unchain him?
I want to have a look. I also. want
Okay,
to have
for
a
the
look
same
at
thing?
Elf. Yep.
Okay. You Kenkus don't have dark vision?
Nope.
Okay. So yeah,
But if they haven't taken my stuff, I still have a lantern.
that's true. They have not taken your stuff except for just the weapons that I mentioned before.
I'm gonna pass. So you don't have to actually light the torch. I'm gonna pass the. Is it a rivet that Morthwill has cast light on? So that will give you 6 feet of light.
Okay. Well, I'll squeeze through and towards the elf. Is the elf naked, just like the other guy was?
The elf appears to have some kind of a loincloth on, but is otherwise,
nearly naked.
Yeah, nearly naked. And also emaciated. Looks like hasn't eaten for a while. And as you sort of peek your head through with the light that we talked about, the elf sort of, again, cowering, but then kind of looks over and kind of blinks. You can see his eyes kind of like trying to adjust to the darkness. And he says, definitely not a language that, well, actually, I don't know. What languages do you happen to know, Waves? Not common, for sure.
I speak Auran.
You speak Auran. As in A-U-R-A-N?
A-U-R-A-N, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you don't know what that is. But definitely, but his voice is surprisingly soft and gentle, despite the fact that he looks a mess.
Okay, I answer.
Hi.
And he just... and kind of like gestures towards his mouth. Like not...
I try again.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
And he kind of shakes his head.
He's like in a cell or something, right? That I can just see from here.
Yeah, well, so
Like in a
you're
small room?
in it. No, you're in with him.
Okay, you're in it. So
Yeah.
I look around just to get the bearings of this room.
Yep. So basically, very small room, and there is over on your, thank you, Terapidishak. Welcome to GOG.com. So as you look over here in this direction, basically to your right as you peer through the hatch, there is what clearly is a door of some kind, but it's very cleverly set and flush with the door. If you had to guess, this probably isn't visible from the other side. So this is kind of the interior of like a holding cell, basically, but it looks like it's not probably visible from the outside of it, like over here, whatever's in here. Sorry, whatever's in here is probably, they wouldn't be able to see the entrance to this cell unless they knew it was there from that side.
Okay, I give the guy a thumb up and go back to the other room, and I go to Silvo.
Okay.
And I repeat to Silvo what the elf said.
Okay, 1 second. You bear with me. Because when you approach Silvo, you hear him speaking quite quietly in prayer, which sounds something like, Daughter of the night skies, goddess of moonlight, the lunar lady, moonlit mystery, I seek guidance. I have been remiss in prayer for a long time, and I have felt darkness on my path, but I need your guidance now. I feel lost and helpless, and I know my mother prayed to you every day and was a devout follower. And I need help. I am in a horrible place and I don't know what's inside me, and I feel like I'm losing my mind. If there's anything you can do, please, I need help. He's constantly rubbing this pendant that you can see wrapped around his hand, but you've never seen this before. You've never like shown it to anyone. And I'm assuming you approach not stealthily.
No.
Cool. So the bilge water splashes around and he's suddenly, hello. What's wrong? Have we found an orc tribe to piss off this time?
I shake my head, and then I repeat what the elf said. Like in the elf's voice, of course.
Oh, that's true. You can actually do it perfectly, can't you?
Yes, of course I can.
Oh, man. It's such a cool... That's neat. So...
It's Elvish.
Yes, it sure is, Silvo. In fact, what it said was, who are you? It says, but it's Elvish, but it's accented, because obviously Wave's accent is perfect. Chef's kiss, perfect. And so what you hear, Silvo, is Waves basically repeats, who are you? And then, I mean you no harm. Please help.
That's
I look
Elvish.
at Silver questioningly.
That's someone asking for help. That's
I nod.
someone asking who we are, and do they mean us no harm. I'm assuming, is this a prisoner? Is this someone here?
I nod.
Well, come on then. And Silvo stands up.
Brian is literally pointing through the hole in the ceiling.
Okay.
Morthwheel, what are you doing while Silvo is going over there?
Did I hear Silvo saying what the elf or translating the elf?
It depends on what Silvo. If Silvo said it
Yeah.
fairly loudly, then sure.
Yeah, I didn't say it quietly.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, he's the one chained up, but he's assuring us he means us no harm. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit suspicious, but Silvo just sort of looks around. He's like, "Well, we're not getting out of here any other way." So you see this. He's putting this pendant back on and tucking it under his clothing.
Did Morthwell notice that the door looks like something that wouldn't be visible from the other side? Like, would he recognize it as potentially a secret door or hidden door?
If Morthwheel, like, if Waves comes back down and actually, yeah, because you saw the door. Yes, unquestionably, it is a door that you're almost positive was designed to be kept secret from the other side. Frankly, the workmanship is a little questionable. Like, I mean, you've seen better work. But it would basically do the job, especially if someone wasn't really looking for a cell from the other side. It occurs to you that this could have been a place when it's not being used as a holding cell that could be used, for example, smuggling goods. Even I get boarded, that kind of thing, right? So that might be what this was for.
I don't feel like he's meant for us to be finding. It's pretty sure this cabin compartment is kind of the sort of thing you don't want people finding. Especially, say, harbor inspectors or, revenue folks.
I agree.
Do you think he might be a slave?
He's definitely a prisoner.
They seem to have avoided all checks with the things they've been smuggling out of Saltmarsh anyway. Why keep him secret even from the crew?
So just looks at Brian and very sort of slowly folds his arms. Well, let's see if we can get off the ship, shall we?
So you're coming with us now?
Well, I'm not going to drown down here, am I? So just try not to pick a fight before we rest, okay?
Well, we can rest now if you want to.
I'm not sleeping in this. Yeah, I might live on the streets, but I've got standards.
How do you think I feel? I'm closer to it. Except for this, he taps his flower-smelling handkerchief.
Yeah, all right, magic boy.
Oh, sure, I'm the magic boy.
Just because you can control your powers, jeez.
Oh, good,
Right,
Mr. had
super.
some training.
The space that
Silver
we
goes towards the hole.
Go ahead,
Sorry, carry on.
Brian.
Hmm?
Go ahead, Brian.
I haven't
Yeah,
actually looked up there yet, so carry on.
Okay. All right. Just getting...
I follow Silver. I want to hear that talk between the elves.
Okay.
Cool. Can I just hoist myself up into this hole with this person?
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, you could pull yourself up. There's not a lot of room up there, but I think you should be able to, fit up there with him.
I'm guessing as elves we don't take up too much room. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's cramped. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I can't position him properly. Oh no, I'm snapping.
Now you've
There
done
we
it.
go. I'm half in the room. Half of my body is clipped through the wall.
You're just Bethesdaing through the wall a bit. It's all right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. See that
Exactly.
mountain? You can climb that mountain.
Well, it's actually is it Control? Damn it, or is it Alt? It's Alt. If you just use Alt, I just did it.
Okay,
it allows
cool.
you to get out of the snap.
Which is that on a Mac?
I don't know. It's sparkly magic. Press the apple and it works, doesn't it? Isn't that how
Sparkly
this
magic
works?
button.
Ask the ghost of Steve Jobs. I don't know. It's so so
It's all right. It's fine. I'll figure it out. Like everything else with Macintoshes.
what is that
Okay,
on
so
the Mac?
I'll hoist myself up, and
Okay.
I'm assuming I see this person.
You do. I'm going to show a picture of what the person looks like, but I do want to caution everybody that this is sort of fully clothed version, so you have to imagine this person as being, sort of near naked, basically. But he looks like this, otherwise. And as you look at this character, Silvo, you are immediately aware, looking upon him, of a couple of things. First of all, he is an elf, but he has this bluish skin. And as he looks at you, you can see from the rippling blue of his arms and the blue of his skin. As I said, he doesn't have that clothing. This is almost certainly a sea elf, a rare underwater version, basically, of the elves, who you have not actually seen one. You might have seen one in your past a long time ago, like in a distance type of thing, but you've never actually spoken to one directly.
So, Waves, you're here with me, aren't you? Are you
Yes.
sort of in? Are you in the room, or are you sort of like half in, half out?
If so, you're going to be
I'm-
cramped because it's getting pretty visible.
I'm in the room. I'll just like do like the chicken things of sitting down.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to need some contextual pictures for that one. Okay, so I'll see the elf. I think he's a sea elf. I mean, I've never seen a sea elf. I thought they were. I'm turning around to Waves at this point. I'm like, I thought they were legends. I thought they were myths. When I worked on the dock in Seaton, there was tales of sea elves like you'd hear about mermaids or sirens. Like you might see one, someone might see one in a lifelong adventure or voyage, but wow, to actually see a sea elf. I'll say I'm not going to try and pretend to do an elvish voice like you have, because I'm not that well. I don't have that much range of. But in elvish, I'm going to say, mean you no harm. Are you injured?
And he looks in a very mild voice. What several of you hear is, and what you understand him to say, Silvo, is, not in body, friend, simply in spirit. And he has a very mellifluous, kind of melodious voice. And Silvo, you feel a touch of peace at this voice. It strikes you as almost familiar somehow. But in any case, everyone who hears the voice, it's very liquid and, quiet.
I look at Silvo.
Well, I don't think he's a danger to us. I think he's just a prisoner. He doesn't. I don't get a bad vibe off him like we did with the last one. He doesn't say he's injured, so I mean we could search him first.
I look at the nearly naked elf. I look at Silvo.
Okay, again, hands sort of up a little bit, and in Elvish I'll be like, friend. Look at the ears, friend. And I point down towards Waves and people downstairs. Friends. I'm gonna get you out of there, okay? Just stay very still. And I'm gonna guess that I'd have some thieves' tools on me at this point, because they won't have taken that off me.
They would not have taken them off you.
Are these locked manacles, or are these?
They are
like
locked
rope,
manacles, quite rusty, but they are locked manacles that are kind of riveted into the wood. But again, this whole room is kind of, waterlogged and kind of half rotten. And as you come over, he says, "I'm going to stick in a luminous." And what you hear in Elvish is, "Are you one of the pirates then?"
No, not an Elvish. No pirate. Adventurer. This happened to us too.
And he sinks back and says, which you understand as, it is apparently a bad place for elves.
Yeah, I'm getting that impression.
And he points to himself and he says,
let's get you out of there.
He points to himself and says, and he says, basically, my name is Oceanus.
Silver. I turn around to Waves and I'll say his name is Oceanus.
Okay. I nod and I say,
My name is.
And he
But I have
hears it
manners.
now. Waves, I want to make this point. When you do the thing and it's the sound of your, the sound your name, he nods immediately and he says back to you, like in the perfect accent of your, like responds in the exact right accent. And you've never heard someone who's not a Kenku do that. Like everyone's always like, is it like, or like the accent's wrong and like, and he just perfect. And he says, and then he says in Elvish, so what you hear, Waves, is, and what you hear, Silvo, in Elvish is, waves crashing against rocks. I wish to hear those again.
Waves crashing against rocks. Is that your full name?
I nod.
Wow.
Why didn't I see that before?
I feel really bad for just calling you the Kenku for a while now. Sorry.
Wave seems amused.
It's the bird.
So I'm going to attempt to pick this person's manacles.
Okay.
I'm trying to give them some space and go back to Brian.
Okay, and I was just about to come to Brian. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I am listening to this. I'm assuming that when Silvo is talking to Waves, I would be able to hear kind of the translation of what's being said.
Yes.
As a pirate and as obviously a water genasi, have I encountered sea elves before?
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
Okay, can I poke my head through the hole? Have I encountered this sea elf before?
You have not encountered this sea elf before, but you are quite familiar with them in your travels up and down through the Azure Sea and around it. Sea elves are particularly notable for two reasons. Number one, like Genasi, water Genasi, they can swim under the water almost as easily as one would walk on land. They can breathe underwater as well. Also, they tend to live in particular tribes, and a good way to describe them is if you imagine that forest elves spend much of their time, or wood elves spend much of their time trying to take care of their forests. Sea elves spend much of their time trying to take care of their areas of the sea. They manage and make great coral beds and great coral towers and buildings like that, but they shape so cunningly out of the natural environment. And they have a fierce anger and rage towards fishermen and towards those who would especially despoil the natural environment. But you have never met a sea elf that is brutal or dishonorable. They have a very strong kind of expectation of and hold to the sea, but they are good creatures for all that you know. And occasionally in your own past, you might have run afoul of one or two of them, Brian, when you were being not so good, comparatively. Although you've never had like a, direct run-in, but you have absolutely encountered them before. They're not very common, though.
But we have essentially, there's no beef. We have a good relationship.
Yes.
Theoretically. With my encounters, my friendly encounters with sea elves, are there any traits or hand signals or just like one word or something where I can kind of impress that I've met his kind before and that I am friend?
I would say, let me think if there's a thing that you could actually use in that case. Yes, actually, because you know that one of the unusual things about sea elves is that they have a kind of, I suppose the way to describe it would be almost like a thieves' cant, where they use a series of hand signals and movements and so forth, so that any creature that has the ability to swim under the ocean can understand sea elves on a basic level. Now, that's communicating simple ideas. If it's complicated ones like, first I was born on the 3rd of February, like, they're not going to, you won't be able to get any of that. But simple ideas, you can communicate that way. So, yes. Also, that some sea elves have been able to actually control creatures of the sea, some of the more powerful ones.
Okay. In which case, I'm just going to kind of hand signal, friend, you can trust us.
And
we will escape.
He does the same, like basically signals back to you. And then he also signals to you a hand up with caution, and he says in Elvish, be cautious. Do not make much noise. There was some commotion above before. They may come to find me, or perhaps not.
Okay, we're just gonna go around. Everyone go shh, very quiet.
Yeah, I'll translate that. I'll just be like, yeah, I think he heard our commotion earlier. He's a bit worried that they're going to come and check on him.
Right, I was going to say, we're pretty sure we was the commotion.
Yeah, I mean, and you could communicate that back to him if you want. That's up to you. But in any case, Silva, I believe you were making a check.
Yes.
I'm going to have you make a Thieves' Tools check, please.
Cool. Non-natural.
And the delay today on catching it up is something. Okay, there it is. Finally. Okay. Yes. So these manacles are quite rusty and not particularly well together. I think the assumption was once you get them manacled and everything, that you wouldn't have to worry about too much else. So you're able to get through without too much difficulty the manacles, and once they're clear.
I'm carefully putting them on the floor as well as I'm taking them off, so I'm not making any noise. And as I'm just doing this, I'll say in Elvish, yeah, we were the commotion before we started a fight with the pirates and lost.
And he says, I wondered if it might be you. I'm glad that you've tried to fight the pirates, but I'm sorry that you lost. As did I, as you can see. My people sent me here to stop them, but I was the one who was stopped.
So there's people sent him here to stop the pirates?
The ship has passed back and forth in front of the lands of my people, and my king grew suspicious. He sent me to find out what had happened, and to see if I could stop them. I am considered one of my tribe's most clever warriors, and as you can see, I may have been considered so wrongly. And he kind of gestures ruefully to the very, narrow conditions and the chains that you just freed him from.
Again, in Elvish, without relaying that previous bit to everybody else, I'll just say, well, no. I don't think that is the case, because we have some very powerful people with us who have quite the experience in combat, and they were still taken out by these pirates. So we have a dread pirate and a very skilled Kenku. So I think it's more numbers got the better of you. But if you were just here to scout, you have a lot to take back to your people.
He nods and he says, "It is true. I do not know how long I have been here. They have brought me food, unpleasant food several times, and brackish water. There was a man with a hook for a hand who brought it to me. But I do not know. Time loses meaning down here, and I eventually simply lay by the wood of the ship and listened to the lovely sea and the sound of the water." And and he says, "I thought perhaps that my prayers would be answered, but it appears Selenine is quiet on these evenings."
Did you say Selenine?
Yes. Selenine Moonbow, why?
We can talk more about that, but I'm a believer. I follow Celine myself.
That is
But
good.
this doesn't feel like the sort of place we should have a discussion of religious context.
No, certainly not. But that is
But-
good that you believe. It must have led you
Yeah.
to me.
I don't normally believe in signs, but suddenly today I'm becoming a believer.
What of the rest of your people? And this is again all happening in Elvish. So,
Yes.
what of the rest of your people? You have a dwarf and one of the bird folk, Kenku, I think they call them. And I saw a water genasi, one of the deep spirits.
Yeah, there's the four of us. We're an unlikely lot, but they're good people. They might get you into a couple of fights, but they're decent people. They'll help you get out of it too. So
I will help however I can, and do what I must. It is perhaps the case that we have the element of surprise now, although we are still here and they are out there. He kind of jerks his head past the false door, or whatever, the secret door there, and he says, I know they use a key to unlock my cell, but I cannot escape it from in here. I do not know if there is another way that you would go, but I will do whatever must be done. If I can help, I will.
just want a quick look at the door that he nodded to. Is there a keyhole that I can see?
Not on your side.
Okay. And there's no obvious mechanism of like, where you'd like stick a credit card in or something like that. There's no like lock. No, okay. Well, let's worry about getting us all out of here safe and sound, and then we can just take whatever the next step is. I'll turn to Waves and I'll say, he thinks he's been here for a while, but he says he's a skilled warrior, so if he can help us get out of here, he will. And I think he, and I look back at Oceanus, I think he's one of the good ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and help him down out of this room so I can have a better look around the room.
Okay.
I'm going to help him down so if Brian or Morthwheel or Waves or something can help Oceanus down.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
so-
give him a hand when.
There we go. He's now down below, and he says, in Elvish, he says, "Manamanaskinagnashne," and his nose kind of wrinkles, and you're pretty sure that even if you don't know what that meant, that it probably is. This is quite a smell or something like it. I think all of you would get that pretty universally anyway.
Oh, I got something that can help with that, and I handed my handkerchief.
He looks at it curiously and then looks at you like, and like holds it like as if not sure what to.
Yeah, more than like gestures, like sniffing it, like.
Oh, and he says, "Thank you for your cleverness. I wish I could do the same." And then he bows slightly, and he looks over at your. You still got that metal thing with just giving the light out, right, Morthwell?
That's with Waves at the
Oh, you
moment.
gave it to
I think.
Waves. So you're just carrying whatever you're carrying. Like you've got the, which is pretty much.
Yeah,
just
you
stuff.
said they took our weapons, but I've got everything else. I've got like my tools and things.
Okay. I wondered if you had your tools out, but but if not, then
I did have my mallet because that
Okay.
was part of what I was getting the boards
That's
up
what
with.
I thought. So he goes over there and he looks at your mallet and then he holds his hand out, Anasme, to the mallet,
Morthwell sort of just holds it up to his hand.
and he runs his
Some,
hand
my
over the
tools.
mallet, and there is a faint outline of blue light that outlines the mallet. And he takes his hand back and smiles at you.
Does Morthwell recognize what might have just happened?
Make an Arcana check.
Okay. 17.
You've never seen this particular thing before, but if you had to guess, this is something which is kind of a version of your kind of guidance type spells, right? Where, or guidance type activities, talents, where this allows you to get some benefit from using the mallet, at least temporarily. It also makes it easier to see because it does give a faint bluish glow extending about, I don't know, maybe a foot around the mallet in all directions.
Ooh, there's orcs about.
Exactly. he says, sting. No, I just get. No, he doesn't do that. Right.
Hey, thank you.
And he nods. Galasman. Okay. So, you were down there. And why is it? I don't understand why it keeps. Okay, maybe I'll just do that. Who knows? I don't know. I keep going over there and I'm like, okay, why isn't it working? All right, there it is. Lovely, great. Okay. So meanwhile, back up here, Silvo, what are you looking for specifically?
I'm going to search all the corners of the room to see if there's anything that indicates where a door might be or any seams in the wood.
Okay. You actually can see those. You definitely can see the outline of a door on your side. That's not difficult to find. That you can actually see that. Opening it is another question, though. It looks like it is locked from the other side.
Yeah, I got nothing. I sort of poke my head down through the hole. Well, there's a door, but there's no keyhole, and there's no hinge. So unless we can find a keyhole through the wood, it is made of wood, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Unless we can find a keyhole magically through the wood, I'm out of ideas.
Is the slithering thing at the gold still going on?
Yes. Has not stopped.
I'll go over and have a look because I didn't so far.
Okay. Make a perception check for me, please.
11.
An 11.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely the only thing you know that's a little bit different than what has previously been discussed is that it's more than one thing. But there are a few things that are slithering around and over and under this, whatever this golden glittering thing is.
Does it look like tentacles?
No, because they don't look. They're not connected to each other. At least they don't seem long enough. But you don't know what they are. Just that it's probably more than one thing.
I'm gonna dolphin at them just to see if they react to it because there might be fishies or something.
So you're literally going to dolphin sound at them, you mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna dolphin at them.
Slither, slither. 0 response.
Don't have anything long with me that I could poke them with. We'll stand there undecidedly and watch the things, what they do.
Okay. It's fascinating. They slither around and under and over. And a couple times something slithers past your leg, but you don't think it's the same thing. It's a much bigger thing.
If it something touches my legs, I have like bad memories from other maggots in my leg. I'll jump back.
Okay. So you do. You don't think the thing touching your leg was a maggot. It felt like
I don't
something
care.
kind of furry, but you do jump away.
Furry.
Yeah.
Or like a little rat or something.
Yes. Possibly.
Well, at least there's food down here. Oh, I've got an idea. I go to my backpack and take out my piece of soap, which I have actually listed on my items, so no worries there.
Okay.
And I'm going to break up a piece and I'm going to throw it where the slithering things are. Let's see how they like that.
Okay. So you do that. They slither around it and under it and over it. And there's a slight bit of lather that builds up from the soap. But other than that, there doesn't seem to be much stuff, although after a while you notice that the activity seems to have dropped a little bit, Waves, or at least they're not as... It doesn't seem to be as active, the slithering around that spot where you threw the soap.
I'll still watch that and until I get an idea what to do with it.
Okay.
I'll just
Will you
stand there.
stop attacking the trash rats? Have we not been attacked by enough things already? Will you stop antagonizing things?
I shake my head.
Stop poking things that could potentially eat us if we have no weapons. If it's there, it lives there. Leave it alone. It's not attacked us. It's not attacked. Oh, boring, but it's safe.
Waves doesn't seem to want to stop.
While this is all going on, while Silvo
things.
is having a look at the door, whilst Oceana is kind of just acclimatizing himself down here, I would like to have a really good look at the two grates, both the one that's covered in wood and the one that's not, to see how and if they're locked into place and how heavy they are.
Okay. So the grate here, which is on top of this pile of garbage, is very small, maybe 4 or 5 feet in diameter, roughly speaking, Brian. And so as far as how heavy it is, you push against it and it kind of rattle. You know, it rattles for sure. But so it seems to be either locked or closed down, but at least you can see something through it. The other one is considerably larger. It takes up, roughly speaking, about, let me see, it runs from about, I should be able to freehand it. So it runs like there, right? Just put that blue square. And so it's about 10 by 10, roughly speaking. And then the wood, there's a, as I say, the grate, and then there's some wood on top of the grate of that one.
Is it like a wooden bar, or is it just like totally covered in wood?
Totally covered in wood, as if someone laid down like a sheet of plywood or something like that over the top of this grate.
Okay.
Thank you for the follow. With 67 something that's probably Welsh.
Whilst I'm investigating these grates, can I hear anything through them?
Why don't you make a perception check for me, please? And they're pretty much in the same general area, so.
That is an excellent shout. I would like to ask a question when Brian is finished.
Okay. All right. So 14. I would say that above you, you can indeed hear occasionally a little bit of movement. Once in a while, you hear some movement of like wood scraping along wood and so on, but not a lot of it. It's sort of like you hear something and then there's silence for like a minute, and then you hear something else again. If you had to guess, like what above you might be like they're moving furniture or items or something like that on the ground, on the floor above you, if you had to guess, and they're doing it once in a while. So that's what you would assume. You don't hear any talking or whispering or sounds of combat or battle or anything like that, but occasionally you do hear what sounds like wood scraping along wood.
Okay, so there's activity up there, but it's not really hustle and bustle.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. Infrequent,
okay.
I would describe it as.
Okay, I'm gonna just continue to, because I got as far as the stern of the ship. I'm gonna continue to investigate like the rest of the walls along here,
Okay.
and the mast, and just as much as I can to get kind of a bearing on any other spaces or rooms that might be around us.
Okay. As you're doing that, I'm curious what Waves and Morthwill and Silvo are doing. Silvo, you're still upstairs looking at the room that you're in up there?
I just wanted to listen at the door.
Okay.
That was my question.
Yes, go ahead and make a perception check for me, please.
A perception check. 11.
You do hear something like you hear kind of a sort of a scratching, and then It's not scratching on the door. It seems to be scratching on something inside whatever the room is that you're listening to. And just like little mutterings like that. Little...
Okay. I'm going to move myself back down into the... Unfortunately, back down into the bilge.
Okay. Squish as you hit the ground.
Squelch.
Morthwell, what about you?
Morthal's actually now thoroughly had enough of the smell and immediately tries to climb up the opening.
Okay. You can do that if you get a little bit of a boost. You might need just a touch. You could probably pull yourself up most of the way, but if you are given a little bit of a boost by someone, then you should be able to do that.
Okay, so give me a boost. I need some fresh air.
Give him a boost.
Okay. All right, so you make your way up into here. Morthwell. Like so.
Hang on. Let's do the magic thing. There we go.
Yep. Okay, so you're up there, and now you're in this small little room with the door.
So Morthwell being Morthwell, he's examining the door now, like with a professional eye.
Definitely you've seen better work, but it's probably, although, it's probably pretty effective if you had to guess. It definitely does not unlock, I should say, from this side. So that if you're going to do this, either you would have to break through it from this side, or you would have to find something to unlock it from the other side, which is clearly how you're supposed to get through it most of the time.
Well, I'd stick my head down. It's like, hey, it's good enough for what it is. We ain't getting it open from this side unless we fancy attacking it with a crowbar. But I don't think we want to let the crew know we're not as contained as they think they are just yet.
Yeah, I think being quiet and not attracting too much attention whilst we try and figure things out is the best way. Best way forward.
Hey, this is probably the best role we've been on in regards to that for a while.
By the way, Brian, at this point, you've made your way around with pretty much the same result. Everything else seems to be pretty much the normal, sound that you would expect from a ship. No other obvious trapdoors or rotten areas. Just the mast, the two hatches, and the thing that you found to go up into the cell.
All right. I want to really carefully examine the mast.
Okay.
Both how it's attached to the base of the ship, but also how it's fed through the gap in the ceiling above us. I'm thinking sabotage, but it's just at the planning stages yet. So I just really want to have a really good look at the mast.
Okay. The mast looks to be in fairly good condition, actually. It is the base of it you can't really see without disturbing the pile of garbage and the stuff that's right around the mast. Because remember, there's like a foot of mud and sand and, filth and apparently rats and other things down below. So to see the actual base and how it's attached, you'd need to basically clear that air, clear that out, clear the debris away from the base of the mast. But just from what you can tell from a visual inspection, it looks to be in pretty good condition, fairly sturdy from what you can tell. But again, you can't see the base of where it's attached yet.
Okay. I'm going to dig down. I want to see how it's attached to the base.
Okay. When you do that, Brian, so you're over here?
Sorry, yes.
Just to confirm, sorry, I just want to make sure that was right. Actually, I'm going to put you here for a reason, because as you begin to dig down, the slithering things that we made reference to before, the slithering things disappear for a moment, and then you are, I would say, somewhat terrified to see that a white something crawls onto your hand. I need you to make a dexterity saving throw for me, please, Brian.
Oh, dear. And this is how Brian died. Okay. Oh, yes. 21.
You're just, you have the reaction I expect I would have, which is like, ah, like, just get the thing up. So it goes flying off and into the thing, and but then to your horror, you see as it hits the ground and it like disappears. We get a moment where the camera, if you will, shows the little white things slipping below the water, and then a mound of white slithering stuff appears above the water, and I would like everybody to roll initiative for me, please.
No! Okay.
I
Let's-
want to
It wasn't
repeat
my
what I
fault.
just said in chat. I left the area for 2 sodding minutes.
Yeah.
Give me some.
I was just having a look around.
Wait, that's not it. That's not the music
Sometimes
going.
I told you so doesn't quite got it.
I'm definitely Team Silvo on this one.
Oh, I need to select my token. Sorry.
Oh yeah, initiative.
Oh, good.
Uh,
Or an initiative of 1.
By the way, do all of you know about the magic that is dark mode on Roll20? Because it is
Yeah.
nice. Let me tell you, it's nice.
I like the way it changes the character sheet to have red for the Dungeons
Yes,
and Dragons.
I love it so much. It's so cool. Anyway, all right.
I didn't need the white light to light my face because I don't have proper lighting, and it'd be brilliant.
Okay.
I didn't select my
let's-
token first, but I got a lower roll the first time, so if you need to adjust that. Then.
Sure. So was it, Inanna? Is it 14?
The initial roll was 14, but I
Okay.
hadn't selected the turn tracker, so
Gotcha.
it,
That's cool. No problem. I adjusted it. All right. Actually, I realized that our standard for this campaign, jaunty sea combat music, is a little odd since it's happening in this, like underneath this like battle of mud and all this stuff. Okay, so for this, we're talking about. All right. Let's see. Oh, and I imagine you'd all like to see what these things look like too, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope.
Do
No,
I
we're
really
fine.
have
We're all
to?
good.
yeah, no, it's fine.
We're good.
They're cute and fluffy.
maggoty
It's
things.
fine.
Yeah.
This swarm of grubs, these white maggot things, emerge
You
above
again?
the water. Yep, I was gonna say you've seen this before, for sure.
Wave. Just there's a wave-shaped hole in the hull. Wile E. Coyote
And
style.
it's just like, ah! Right through the hole,
Well, if
and you have a moment before it just literally, the water just pours in through.
Yeah, there's just solid water on the other side for half a second. And
Oh my goodness.
I imagine that some of them have even eaten my soap, and if you step on them, they will like soap bubbles will come out. Like, bloop.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see. So we've got Brian with the 14. We have got, let's see.
Me without my shield.
Yeah, we've got
those
Morthwell
without
with
anything.
13.
I've got my cantrips.
Okay, and we've got Waves with an 8. And Silvo, who's like, what the F with the 3. I think is basically what we're looking at here. Okay. All right. So we begin with the creatures that are swarming. And they come up, and let's see. They are going to attempt to bite. So they are unfortunately... I hate to do this to you, Inanna, but they're going to attack the thing that's right in front of them, and that means they're going to attack you. So there are 2 attacks on you. We're going to see how this goes. And let's see.
Use your AC.
I know what my AC is probably now.
Yay.
You're fine. Everything's fine.
Thank God they didn't take your armor.
14 and 14.
That does not hit.
See? Because of the armor. That's
because
what I'm
of
talking
my
about.
AC. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think my AC before was 14, so that would have been.
Yeah. So
bad.
these
In fact, now
creatures,
I think
like-
it's worse than that.
Yes, these creatures like swarm up on you, but they sort of bite away at your chain armor, and you manage to shake them off. However, one thing that's a little odd and is frankly perhaps a little troubling is that they're literally right on top of you. Because, sorry to move you for just a second, swarms can occupy the space of a creature. They can occupy the space of... So right now, basically, you just see Brian has got a bunch of maggots swarming all over her. And with that pleasant image that I provided all of you, Brian, you were up next.
That's delightful. So I'm assuming I can't kind of jump backwards without an attack of opportunity.
No, you can, because you're only going back 5 feet. That's fine. Like you could end up right back here or something like that, or any of the. As long as you're not jumping into the mast, you could go 5 feet, any one of these squares, pretty much, and you would not incur attack.
Okay, so I can actually get out of the swarm if I move backwards
Yes.
1 square.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to do that then. I'm going to move there.
Okay.
And using the sludgy stuff, water that's on the ground around us, I'm going to do the scene out of X-Men where the frozen water just builds a wall between me
Nice.
and the maggots. It can't freeze them in. They can't be frozen. But I'm just building a frozen wall between us and the maggots.
Okay.
Or to see them, or as big as I can get it.
I was going to say, how far, how much can your water shaping?
Okay, my water shaping. Up to 5 feet in any direction. It doesn't say how big it can last for an hour.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it's 5 feet.
It doesn't say how big the area of effect is.
Well, I think it does. If it's 5 feet
The
in any
area is
direction.
5 feet.
Yeah.
The range is 30 feet. The area is 5 feet. So basically, like between me and these maggots is 5 feet, like square.
Like
Between.
that?
That's
Because that's 5 feet.
yeah.
So you have a 5 by 5. So now the good news is that does block you for the moment. The bad news is they can clearly swarm around it, like above and below. But at least you put something up. So you all see, and as you do that, you can see, you can hear, as Oceanus says something. You don't know exactly what, but seems to be, impressed with the action. Okay, so you do that. One thing this does allow you to do, actually, though, is it does allow you to separate by another square or two without attack of opportunity because of that ice wall.
I 100% am doing that. Yep.
Okay. So you do that, and that is going to lead us to. I've forgotten. Okay. Right. So the next to go before you do, Morthwill, is Oceanus, and Oceanus strides forward, and he stops, and then he looks to you for a moment, Brian, and he puts his hand on your shoulder, and then so let's see, 5, 10, 15. Then he's going to walk up to here. And then he is going to whisper something inaudible. And he whispers it apparently to your wall. And suddenly you see the wall thicken. Like just... And then Oceanus turns around and like hits this, like slams it, and the wall like just lands on top of the grubs. Now... The maggots sort of, there's this smashing and squishing sound. And then Oceanus backs up 5 feet and says in Elvish, Manash Anaskana. And what you hear that as, Silvo, is that killed many of them, but the ones left will be angrier now.
Oh, that's got some of them, but there's more.
Okay.
Sorry, I made maggots. I'm sorry I made maggots. I didn't mean to make maggots. I'm sorry I made maggots.
Okay. That's going to bring us to Morthwill. You were up.
Yeah. So from the hole in the ceiling, you just see this upside down dwarf beard appear, and hands pull it out the way. He's like, "Oh, by the broken belt of the cob, I left you alone for a couple of minutes," and half climbing and half falling out of the hole in the ceiling.
And what did we learn from that?
So yeah, Muddle's going to sort of attempt to climb down, but in a hurry. So sort of a half falling, half lowering.
You can do
himself.
that. I mean, it's only 5 feet up, so you probably can get down there. You probably have about another 15 feet of movement, I would say, from there, Northwill, and you immediately see some slithering white things, a very, very scared-looking waves, and like, we're not scared, wide-eyed. Let me put it that way, sort of like, oh crap, type of thing. And you see Oceana stepping, and you see what looks like a big slab of blue ice on the ground near the mast.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to come up to here, and I'll hold out my blue glowing carpenter's hammer, which also starts to glow red on the tip.
Ooh.
As I cast a firebolt.
Purple,
It's a
baby.
cantrip, yes. It is a cantrip, and as long as I have my crafting tools, I can cast my cantrips.
Yep. Okay. So let me think about that. Right. And what's the spell? Did you say?
Firebolt.
Firebolt, which is a ranged spell attack, right?
Range spell, line of sight.
+2, because you're
Okay.
using this hammer. Now, when you use
Okay.
that, it's going to use up the blue, so you know. But
Yeah. Well, that's a 26 then.
that's a lot of hit, actually.
Okay.
What kind of damage?
Okay.
That's fire damage, right?
Yeah, it's D10 fire damage.
Lovely. It notes that this swarm is immune to being charmed. I'm like, really? I wouldn't. You know, you're looking real good down there, those maggots.
You mean we got dressed up as these attractive maggots for nothing?
Yeah, I mean, really. Like, okay, so
That's
you
7 fire.
so you hit one of them. Now the two, I actually should pass them across here. So they're now basically in 2 spots. So the one here to the north looks quite hurt. Or at least there's like not many things that are kind of slithering around anymore. But there's still a little bit there. But you definitely imposed your will upon them. I mean, they took all of your damage. It's just they weren't completely dead, but you've hurt a lot of them.
Okay.
Hello, Negus Naked.
Pull back 5 feet, and I think that'll be that then.
All right, that leads us to waves.
I chuck my healing potion.
Okay.
I'm at 4 points.
Yes.
I'm not.
Logical.
I'll just stare at the whole maggot thing. I remember the whole other maggot thing, and I'll just drink my healing potion now, all of it, which has 2 uses, 2d4 plus 2. So come on, 2d4 plus 2 for 1, and 2d4 again. So that is 12 in total.
Well, hold on. Now, every use of a healing potion, though, is a single action, though. Waves. So you can't just chug the whole thing down in one turn. You can take one, and then you can take the next one next turn. Each one's an action.
Like, no.
And it's actually, well, you know what I will say? I take that back, because I take back what I said. Because when you're doing this for yourself, it's a bonus action. So actually, you can do your full you can use your action and bonus action to take both doses. I take that back.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, if you were giving it to someone else, it would be a full action,
Nope,
and then you can
mine.
only do one at a time. So you're doing it to yourself. Okay, cool. So 12. All right. Yeah, you're hale and
me up
hearty
to
now. You're up to 16. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I can do right now.
You gonna stay where you are, Waves?
Except for maybe, say, voicing my displeasure at all the maggot thing. So Brian covered in maggots is coming towards me.
I don't have them on me anymore. I kind of moved myself away from the swarm.
Yes.
There might still be some, but you just don't see them.
I was gonna say, you think there might be one on Brian's hat? Just like,
Yeah.
You're just holding a lit
moved-
torch towards Brian.
I move at least like one spot away, and I eye the whole situation with distrust a lot, and say, that was me. So I'm done.
All right, that leads us to Silvo. Silvo, what would you like to do?
Silver is just clutching his head like he's in pain. I'd like the swarm to the north to make an intelligence saving throw, please.
Oh, that should work really well. These are incredibly intelligent swarms. Yeah, that's a big 0. You don't want to know what I rolled. It was very bad. Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say you don't even want to know the DC, do you?
But yeah, I mean, no.
No. Okay, cool. They're going to take 1d6 psychic damage.
What kind of
so-
and this is psychic damage. Okay, so it's not a frightened effect or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay.
But they reduce 1d4 from the next saving throw if they make. Oh, hang on a second. 1d6 psychic damage and subtract 1d4 from the next saving throw it makes before the end of your next turn.
Okay.
So if the one at the north needs to make any sort of saving throw, minus 1d4.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't you roll damage first of all?
Yep. 2.
Yeah, you'll be happy to know that since they only had 1 hit point, that saving throw will not be necessary since you obliterate what's left. You see the kind of like a couple of them explode, the white stuff, and there's this little green ichor that hits the wall and
You
sinks
just hear
into the
Silver
mud.
sort of wince in pain. He's like, oh, not again. Oh.
Okay. And you're going to stay where you are, Silvo?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, my, yes.
All right. So, let's see. This thing is going to come towards... it's going to go that way. That's as far as it can move. Swarms do not have super fast speed. Okay, Brian, you're up next.
Okay, so this was the heavy ice fell on both swarms.
Fell on
yes?
both swarms, and so they have. This is what's left of the swarm that has come from underneath, crawling in the mud and water underneath the ice to come here.
Are there still? Do they look like they've still got lots of fight in them? Are there lots of them?
There are not nearly as many as there were. The ice has clearly killed a number of them, but there are still some that remain.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to go in on strike because I can't really do anything else, and I feel 100% responsible for these maggots that are now attacking us.
This is my fault. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make maggots. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna run in there. I'm gonna do an unarmed strike, which I've got it down as. Oh, that.
21. That I love the idea. Just quick, I wanted to note it's dire maggots, Saber. I'm sure you know. No, just kidding. I love the idea that you punch these things in. You just literally punch the
Ground
maggots.
and pound.
It's hilarious.
Just punch him to death.
Oh my gosh! So you bludgeon the. You just see Brian like just punching the mud and water, and you see I would say Morthwill because you're closest. Oceanus kind of looks slightly over his shoulder at all of you as if to say like, wow. But nonetheless, you do hit and you do some damage as you're striking away at these things, Brian.
Will they get an attack of opportunity if I retreat?
Oh, no. Let me think about that, actually. No, they would, yeah, because you'd have to disengage 5 feet, and you have to do that without having moved otherwise. So if you try to disengage now, then yes, you would take attack of opportunity.
Okay. No, I'm not going to. Then I will. I'm going to stand on this hill.
Okay.
And protect the others.
All right. Oceanus is going to go next, and squelches his way to here, and then he whispers something to the water, and the water starts to, and a little vortex of water and maggots basically comes up like this, and sort of swirls around. And he says to you, in Elvish, he says, Konaminesk, and then makes a signal, which to you is the universal sign that you can see through the water and maggots, the universal sign for duck or get out of the way, Brian.
I am going to dive out of the way.
Okay. So you do, just show me where. Are you like here or?
Whichever direction. If he's directing it in this direction, I'm going to dive in this direction.
Yep, that seems like the right idea. So you dive out of the way just a second before he sort of you can see his eyes, Morthwill, from where you are. You can see his eyes close, and then and then he opens his eyes and pushes forward. and his, sorry to move you, Brian, just want to make sure I don't hit you with the maggots. They go flying here, and Morthwell, you have this one sort of horrified moment of like seeing a wave of like maggots and water coming towards you, and then they slam into the wall, like the bulkhead. You can see there's little ones that pop out there, and drop to the ground, and then they basically, there's like one maggot left that sort of lands like right kind of feebly crawls up to your knee, and since you're going next, Morthwell, you could, if you want, bring your boot down upon it if you wanted to do that.
I bring my carpenter's mallet down on it.
Squish. I'm not even going to make you do an attack for that. You squish this thing, and it falls silent inside the ship. And Oceanus comes over to you, Brian, and offers you a hand for you to stand up after the dive.
I gratefully take the hand and say, "Thank you so much. I'm sorry I made maggots, everyone. I'm sorry I made maggots." And I do that whole,
Mother's like looking at everybody's like going 1, 2, 3, and looks very confused that everyone's still on their feet.
I'm kind of like pointing over my shoulder. He's good to have around, isn't he? And then like do the whole thing again because of the maggots, and then like do the international water symbol for I am very grateful for your assistance.
And Oceanus kind of puts a hand to his heart and says, you recognize that Silvo as something to the lines of the ocean is grateful for the sand. Something like that, which is basically, as you know, probably something quite polite among Sea Elvish society.
Yeah, he's real peachy. We're all alive as well. Could we please get off this boat now?
Nothing is slithering by the gold thing anymore. You notice, by the way, Brian.
Oh, I'm going for the gold.
You find 2 gold coins. Congratulations. 2 gold coins. 2 gold coins. That's right.
Such obvious bait the whole time.
Of course it was.
I was thinking Tom Hardy from that's bait.
Yeah. So it's like there's like the shiny gold and there's all those wriggly things. I'm like, yeah, that's enough for me.
But there is nothing wriggling now.
No. No, there are still things that move occasionally, but those you think are like the rats that have been kind of, occasionally going past your leg or something like that.
I'm going to turn to the others and say, I don't think there are any more maggots. I just want to see how this mast is attached. And I kind of continue to try and find out how it's attached to the bottom. And while I'm doing this, I'm just turning to the others and say, look, there is a method in my madness. If we can sabotage the ship somehow, maybe we can, I don't know, get them to open the door, and there might be an actual way out. As I'm kind of digging down and looking over my shoulder, looking for confirmation that I'm making a good decision.
I'm on maggot watch.
Okay.
Morthwell heads over to examine the mast as well, since he knows a thing or two about construction of ships.
So the bottom of this thing, and I think I might actually be able to show a little bit of it. I will show you the bottom area here. Let's bring you down. There we go. That is the bottom level of the ship where you are right now. And this thing right here is, you can see there's basically 2 wood braces that are on opposite sides of this thick, fairly strong looking mast, which is riveted here to the deck. Now, the wood braces down here do show a little bit of corrosion, but not a lot. I mean, not the kind of thing where you could hammer on it a little bit and then you'd be all set to go. This is going to take a while. Quite obviously, they spent a whole lot of time making sure that the mast was secure, because it's kind of the most important part of the ship besides the hull. So this thing looks like it would not be easy to get down. You could probably remove it given time, or sabotage it given time. But the thing is, it goes up through the floors, right, Brian? And every floor that it goes through, there is basically a cutout circle surrounding it, very close, like fitted to the mast. So, if you were to decouple it down here, in a big storm, it probably would have the effect of sabotaging the ship, but at the moment, it's not likely to make it sink or, anything along those lines. And it would take you a while to really, sawing through the mast is practically impossible unless you have bigger tools than what you have. Carpenter's tools are nice, but they're not going to get you sawed through a mast in anything sooner than a couple hours at the outside. Those braces might go a little faster, but again, it's not clear that the braces are going to be enough. It's not going to topple over or something like that.
Okay, particularly since the weather's quite calm outside
At the moment.
It? Okay. I'm looking around to the others like this. It's pretty secure right now. Does anyone have any ideas?
Well, even if it wasn't so wet down here, I don't think setting fire to it would be a good idea.
I kind of think for a moment. No. I think you're right. I think burning ourselves alive might not work. Do you think we might be able to go through the hull?
Do you think we might all be able to breathe underwater?
I nod to our new friend Oceanus. I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy, but a big enough hole, myself and Oceanus should be able to get everyone to the surface.
You generally don't build a ship that can be so easily sawed through, I'm afraid.
I'm well aware. I'm reaching at the moment, Morthwell.
Oceanus puts a hand on your shoulder, Silvo, and whispers in Elvish, and the Elvish that you hear is those who cannot go through must go around. And then he, as you sort of look at him, he smiles and points up, and then sort of bends low and kind of in the universal language for sneaking.
I think the only way we can get out is up. He says those who cannot go through go round. So maybe those who can swim underwater, breathe underwater, go through the hull, and those who can't go up. I'm not
We still need to get through this grate first, though. Then.
Or the door. If the ship starts to sink, then surely people aren't going to care if a door gets pulled off its hinges or we start kicking our way through a door. But I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs in that scenario. Where are our things? What if there are other prisoners on the ship? What if we're miles from shore and we just don't realize it?
What if I'm not that good at sneaking?
Yeah, well, exactly.
But that door, the only way that's opening from the bit we got access to is with a crowbar, and that is not going to be quiet.
Okay, I turn to Waves, Morthwell, Silvo, and Oceanus and say, okay, so we need to get through one of these grates. If the door can't open from this side, we need to open it from the other side. I'm pretty sneaky. I can maybe sneak round and open it. However, I don't want to potentially sink this boat without any means of getting out of this room.
I mean, they did leave me with my saw,
yeah.
But again, not exactly sneaky.
How's the hatch sealed? And I'll sort of walk over to this bit.
I've been checking the hatches as I go round. I've been checking the hatches.
Mm-hmm.
That one is quite large, but there's a piece of wood over the top. I'm not sure it's locked. The other one seems to be locked. I can move it. but there's resistance. There's something locking it in place. This one, we might be able to saw through. Although it's going to be quite heavy to lift.
I mean, we could always do get help. We pretend one of us is seriously injured. We shout for help. Someone comes down, unlocks the door. We jump them. Hopefully no one else hears it. We have a way out and potentially a weapon. It's not a good idea, but it's an idea. Especially as we now have, I motion to Oceanus, an additional person with us.
True. I mean, that's assuming that they care if we're injured or not.
Well, maybe they care if Oceanus is injured because they've been feeding him and they didn't stick him in the bilge. So maybe if enough noise in that cupboard will attract someone's attention.
So...
And then all of a sudden, 5 people pour out, or as many people as we can fit in there at a time.
So we make it sound like Oceanus is in trouble. Double bluff them. I like the way you think, Silvo.
They clearly care about him enough to feed him and keep him here for a while, so they're keeping him for a reason, whereas with us, they just threw us down here with a bunch of flesh-eating maggots. So if he's in trouble, then they're probably going to at least notice. I don't know what he's near. I don't know what he's next to. So it could be the captain's quarters. It could be the barracks. It could be anything. So someone, there's a noise the other side of that room, whether it's a creature or a person, I'm not quite sure. There is something that will hear him.
I turn to Silvo and say, can you please ask our new friend, does he know why they kept him alive?
I can ask. I'll turn to Oceanus and in Elvish, I'll ask. They've kept you alive for a while now. If you've been here longer than we have, do you know why?
And he says to you in Elvish, when I came aboard this ship and snuck aboard it, I was here to stop what was happening and to find out more of what the ship was doing. And at the port by the land, not far from here, I don't believe, although I cannot know now since I have been below decks for some time, they took on many, many weapons, swords and axes and spears, and more weapons than their crew could possibly use on their own. When they found them, and as they were watching them, I was watching them as they loaded the things on. Then I felt a heavy blow to my head. When I awoke, was stripped, my weapons taken from me, and chained in the place that you found me. I don't know why they've kept me alive, but I know what I saw them doing.
And this town that you were near, this was, and I'll describe kind of what you would see of Saltmarsh from the ocean. Like you see the dock and the hill and the house and this sort of thing.
And he actually suggests that the way he describes what he saw makes you think that he's talking about the sort of secret cove, underneath the haunted house thing, more or less. So yeah,
that's where we came from. We've traveled from that town in order to investigate it, similar to yourself. So to the others, I'll say, he doesn't know why he's been kept alive so long. All he does know is that they've been smuggling weapons, like lots and lots of weapons, like more than the crew could use. So there's definitely something bigger going down here. But he definitely was near Saltmarsh when he got captured. But why they're keeping him alive, I'm not quite sure. But we can capitalize on that they're keeping him alive.
Oh, Sambalet kept us alive too.
Well, for now.
I
get the impression Sambalet's a very small piece in this. I don't know why.
Sambalet, he knew where we were. He knew everything we were doing according to his henchmen on the cove.
Well, that's according to his henchmen, but we were still able to, at least in part, sneak on the ship. And you got to ask, I don't know, he seems like a bit of a henchman with an ego complex. Like, I've dealt with people like him before. He's not the boss. He acts like the boss, but bosses don't normally act like the boss. They are normal people. They're just a lot more dangerous. The Viper sisters, you don't see them, you don't really hear from them, but they're always there. But they've got people underneath them that do the heavy lifting and the grunt work. But those people act like the boss, because they've got a little bit of power that they throw around. I don't know. I just kind of feel like Sambalet's got a little bit of power and he's throwing it around and everyone just sort of marches to his order. But I get this itch in the back of my brain that tells me that there's somebody else pulling a string here and I'm not sure who.
I don't disagree with you. He quite possibly could be the puppet rather than the puppet master. I'm going to suggest something, guys, that it might be an unpopular opinion, but maybe we should make do and rest here while we can. And they will be slightly more prepared for this plan once we've had, I know without the aroma is not particularly pleasant, but our choices are limited.
I mean, it sounds like the best plan so far. I'm concerned that the ship, whilst we're resting, we're either going to get carted over to someone, or the ship's going to leave, and we're going to be in the middle of the ocean.
Could be in a worse position by the time we're done resting.
No.
We
Could be in a worse position if we
in-
press on without resting. We've been in both
Exactly.
positions.
Yeah. I mean, but we don't want to do exactly what we did in the house and try and force our way through our tiredness and exhaustion and just, I don't know, flop.
Yeah, we've made that mistake before.
And we were kind of poisoned at the time.
We were poisoned at the time. We were on a deadline for that one, literally. However, I am looking at the slightly shocked face of Waves, who at the prospect of sleeping in the maggot room is not particularly happy. However, one of us can sleep in the cell above.
I was going to suggest we might want to have someone awake in the cell above, just in case of visitors.
That would also be a good plan.
It's a good shout.
Being able to swap out.
I mean, they're expecting us down here. They wouldn't be expecting anyone in the cabin.
Mm.
And not chained up in the cabin as well.
Now that it was mentioned that there's something on the other side of the door of the cabin, I want to climb up there and also have a listen, as I'm kind of good with sounds.
Okay. All right. You can absolutely do that. So you're heading back up here.
Yeah, wait. I'm going to move myself properly. There.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead and make a perception check for me, please.
It's a door.
Yes, it's maybe one thing you can hear actually is a and then some kind of scratching. And you, Waves, have a better knowledge of this than traditionally most might have. It sounds like a parrot. Maybe asleep, or certainly quiet, but it's a parrot.
Parrot. It's a parrot. I'm very surprised at this. And I say,
And there's a pause, and then there's a pause, and then
it is a parrot. It is indeed a parrot.
Pieces of 8. Pieces of 8. Now you can all hear this too, and like without perception, you just hear just like sound, and
I don't know, it's not me.
pieces of 8. And that's true. Nobody
Well,
sees
so
you.
much for resting.
So it's,
I think those maggots drove waves a bit over the rainbow.
she's finally gone full parrot. So down below, Oceanus, hearing that, sort of sighs and says, and in Elvish, I heard that sound in the room next to me many times.
Yeah, so he's heard that sound in the room next to him a lot.
Mhm.
So my guess is maybe that's where that creature is kept, I guess.
And now falls silent, Waves, after a couple
So
times
Morthal's
saying
not
pieces of eight.
actually heard the creature on the other side of the door, so he's like, but Waves has been with us the whole time.
Well, yeah. It was. I'm a little concerned as to which noise is which, but that's. I think there's also a bird/parrot on the other side of that wall.
It could be a guard parrot. It could be trained to raise an alarm should anything try to get out of that door.
Is that a thing?
Parrots are weird.
Morthal's generally like, is that a thing?
You pirates, you're just weird. God, parrots.
I want a guard parrot.
We'll go get a guard parrot then.
You got me, so
We don't, as I say, we don't need it. We've got waves.
We don't. We have an attack kenku. We don't need a guard parrot and an attack kenku.
Our trained attack kenku.
Trained attack kenku.
Well, semi-trained.
Proficient. It's our proficient attack kenku.
Enthusiastic attack kenku.
Yeah, exactly. Passionate kenku. Passionate attack kenku. And so then the parrots dies down, and you just hear again.
So we're just gonna go over to the hole. You're just gonna stand here. You're just gonna go, Waves, you stop making noise. Get down here.
Waves comes down, and although she doesn't have a lot of facial expressions, you feel like she doesn't like to be spoken at like a dog. She eyes you and waves.
I think we have annoyed enough creatures in this build. We have annoyed enough things with teeth and claws. Let's maybe just all be a bit quiet.
As you wish.
And she falls quiet.
Okay, I think we need a guard, but we could also do with a rest.
Yeah.
So I am going to explain this to Oceanus in Elvish to say we're injured and we're exhausted, so we need to rest up a little bit before we try and sneak out of here. One of us is going to stand guard, so you can rest where you can. As long as you're okay with that.
And Oceanus nods and says, which in Elvish is, I will watch over you while you sleep, and there will be no harm that comes to you, at least not without warning.
Thank you. We appreciate that. He said he'll watch over us. He'll take guard.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do the universal water language hand signal for thank you so much again.
It gives you the you're welcome sort of, signal.
In Elvish, I'm just going to lean in a little bit. I don't know why Silver leans in when he's speaking a language no one else hears. But he'll say, I'd like to talk to you as well in private about magic at some point.
And he sort of tilts his head and says, if that would be of use to you, he says. All right. Now, where exactly are you folks sleeping relative to these positions? You've got the bilge itself, or you've got the cell, and I know you talked about both possibilities. So where do people want to aim for? There's now a nice bed of maggots. You know, you could just like rest right on top.
I'm gonna stay away from the squishy maggots. I'm gonna try and push up the rubbish so it's above the waterline.
Okay. You can kind of do that.
And I'm gonna kind of try and, because I do, as I feel responsible for the maggots, I'm gonna try and sort out a place for Silvo and Morthwheel and Waves to sleep, and then I'll sleep in the sludge if necessary.
Nope.
I'm feeling very guilty about the maggots, knowing what they did to Waves before.
Could I just squat on the ribs of the ship? I don't know how they're called in English. You know, like the ribs of the ship?
The hull, or like the oh, I know what you mean.
It might be ribs.
Beams?
Sure, though.
Yeah, they're
Like
right.
beams?
Exactly. The curved
Yeah,
beams
like
that
the
go
beams,
underneath. I know
yeah.
what you're talking
Curved
about.
beams that make the hull.
You can.
Can I like
I
a
mean,
chicken squat on them?
Let's squat on them. Well, the thing is, they go up and around the bilge, and they go above the deck above you. So there's nothing to squat on. Like you could.
Yeah, but they usually go
They
down.
curve.
Like
I know,
this,
but
so
the curvature is not very much, and it's under the water is the part that curves. So like you could, it does curve a little, but you'd almost need to like lean, like stand up and lean against the back if you wanted to be out of that.
Can we fashion a
Yeah,
perch hanging from the grate with some rope and the bedding, so that
Are you trying to make a guard parrot?
like a little
Brian?
hammock?
Are you trying to make a guard parrot? Like a guard parrot perch right now?
Yeah, exactly.
You actually probably could do that if you've got, depending on what items you got. I suppose you do have rope or whatever. You could probably attach it to, to the underside of the grate. I would think so.
I'm setting up hammocks for everyone. I've got one rope and my bedroll. So if anyone else has got rope and bedroll, I can fashion hammocks for us all.
Okay.
I would just like to know if the bit I'm currently stood on is relatively dry. Because from the curvature of the boat on the cross section, that's the curve going up. That's the front of the boat, isn't it?
No, where you are right now?
Yeah.
No. Now where you are. Sorry. I was
Yeah.
I was looking over at the my other page,
where I am now.
It's the page where it freaking refuses at all costs to ever actually update. Okay, so yes, you're over there now.
Yes. So I'm just looking at that and also the cross section of the boat underneath it. So I'm like, surely the bilge wall wouldn't go that far up.
It doesn't go up that far, but neither, frankly, does the curve. It's maybe above the water a little bit, but it's not nearly enough for you to find a place to rest. I mean, at least not to lie down. Maybe you could sit with your legs drawn up and whatever, but it's not going to be super comfy. Although I don't expect you're going to do a full long rest anyway. I don't think anyone's planning on. Are you planning on trying to sleep for 8 hours or whatever down here? Or?
I mean, any rest is good. A short rest will do.
Okay. So yeah. All right, and then lastly, Waves, are you going to stay up in that cell, or are you coming down?
I also have rope and a bedroll, so if I can get a hammock from Brian, I'm going to take it. Also, Morthwheel is like the shortest, so he should take the cell because he can actually lie down in it.
Okay.
Fair.
All right.
I'm going to hand my stuff to Brian to get a hammock.
I'm really good. I'm obviously, as a pirate and a sailor, I'm very good with knots. So I'm
Oh yeah.
fashioning the most comfiest hammock.
The best, comfiest hammock. Okay. I think you're able to do that. And as you all settle in, Morthwheel, you have the uncomfortable experience in the cell of every so often hearing like like from next door. Just sort of as a reminder that something else is there. But you folks are able to get, I would say, an hour at least. So if people want to use their hit dice, for example, to restore some hit points, this might be a good time to do that. And if you have any things that reset on a short rest, that would happen.
Yeah, I get my action surge back.
Okay, Morthwell, so you're back up to full, right?
I'm back up to full, yeah. I think that is literally the only thing I can do on a short rest. Everything else I've got is tied into long rests.
How many hit dice do you have left?
1.
You just got the 1, right? Okay.
I still have 2 hit dice left, so I'm going to do that. Oh, wonderful.
4, looks like.
Yeah.
Is it plus Constitution?
Yeah, that's plus 1. She counted that, I think.
I'm gonna use a hit die as well.
So that means you're up to 19, I think, Brian?
Yep.
And you've got 1 hit die left. And, okay, Waves. Oh, there's Silvo. Okay, that does max you out, I think, Silvo. Doesn't it? Because I had you at, like...
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. So
But now you have 1 hit die left.
Yeah. I do, yeah. That was the worst roll I could do, but it still topped me off.
And Waves, you've got 6 that came out of that, I believe. So you're up to 22 out of 26. Okay. Oceanus obviously is just resting, and after about an hour goes by, Morthwell, you are sort of positioned down there, and I would like, let's see, Silvo and I'd say Silvo, Brine. No, actually, that's not necessary because of where Oceanus is. I take that back. Oceanus comes over, Brian, and you are woken out of your nap. And Oceanus is leaning down next to you and makes this symbol for danger and then points up. And you can see as you open your eyes that the hatchway is beginning to open. And that's where we're going to bring our session for a close for today.
Oh, cliffhanger again!
Except this time it's a bilge hanger.
Hey.
You know, it's funny. It feels to me like a lot happened, even though basically everyone spent their time in the bilge, which was not what I originally thought was going to, necessarily occur. Although, you were all gathering information and you found a potentially very important new ally, and so there's multiple things that went down there. And my only regret is that, we have to wait now again to play. We were going to be doing twice this month, but we had to change up that idea when Talisman had to be rescheduled. So sadly, but yes, this will be good times when we actually get there. And I'm excited to see what happens now that you have a mysterious new ally, and now you have maybe a chance to work your way out of this problem, out of this bilge area. I will start as per usual on not the bottom of the row. I'll move back to cams only. I will start with Ananda. You had a couple of, I think, really good, not just combat moments, but also moments, Brian, where you were thinking about ways to handle stuff. And the idea of you punching the maggots was cracking me up. Just like this, all right, that, and also you're talking to them and being like, all right, so things aren't great, but, here's the positive. And when you were speaking to when you had that interaction with Silvo, it was interesting because, Silvo was obviously angry and was acting angrily about the fact that he had all this stuff happen. And you're keeping kind of this like, look, I mean, it does suck, but like this isn't my problem. Like, are you in the crew or not, type of thing. So that was interesting to me to see how that all is going to play out and what will happen whenever all of you manage to get clear, either get this ship or get clear of the ship or do something with the ship. It'll be interesting to see how that happens as you move forward with also the information you now have knowing about these weapons too. So we'll see. In any case, it was a lot of fun to watch for me. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next month?
I really enjoyed today's session. I do every single session. Brian, obviously, she's been in crews. There is nothing more important to her than the crew, and she absolutely expects everyone else on the crew to feel exactly the same way. But I really enjoyed it. I was faced with either punching maggots or hiding because there was literally nothing else that I could do.
Yep.
But we managed to punch some maggots, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed today's session, as I always do. I love playing with these players. I love Ghosts of Saltmarsh and D&D in general. So yeah, lots of fun today. You will be able to find me on my own channel for the rest of the week. On my own channel, I focus on indie games. So we're doing Ananda's Indies. This week, I'm playing, or have played, Valheim, Chicken Police, more Valheim, Road 96, and then more Valheim. And then I'll be back over here on Saturday for my regular slot on GOG.
Good stuff. That all sounds awesome, and we will see you, of course, back here with us next month for which is not that long away, for more Ghosts of Saltmarsh and more Brian punches maggots in the face repeatedly. But thank you, Nana. Good stuff today. Also, good stuff today. I will, I guess, continue in the normal order I would go. So good stuff today as well from Mike and from Silvo. There's more stuff obviously going down with Silvo, and you can tell a little bit of it. And I liked the idea that there were other aspects of, that we saw a little bit from Silvo in terms of the prayer and feeling just really frustrated with everybody. But it's clearly the frustration of like a kid who's just like, you people get everyone in trouble and everyone gets hurt and I don't know what to do. And I'm, and kind of the I'm over my head thing, came through quite a bit, I think, with that. And also you had, some moments in that one small combat that we did with the swarm, the grub swarms as well. And also you can speak Elvish, and that allowed you to communicate with this new ally, Oceanus. And we'll see how that all plays out as time goes on. How'd you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
I adored today's session. I just absolutely loved it. There was something just very peaceful and spiritual about the whole thing, even though most of the time I was playing an angry teenager. Like there was
in a bunch of trash, to be clear.
Yeah,
in
a trash hold, being eaten alive by trash maggots. But there was just something. There's just a vibe about today's session that was just like, it warms my soul, this session, to be honest with you. It's one of those sessions where everyone gels really well. There's great RP, there's a little bit of combat, but everything sort of goes really well. But yeah, in regards to Silvo, I do forget sometimes, and I'm playing him, that he is very young. Like for an elf, he is very, very young. And even for a human, he's very young. So he's never really, he talks a big game, but he's never really done anything like this. And, the fact that he gets into these scrapes, this isn't normal for him. Normal for him is surviving, not, trying to fight his way out of pirate infested ships. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of a culture shock, and he seems to be surrounded by people who, apart from he seems to be surrounded by Waves and Brian, who seem to do this a lot, and they can handle themselves and they know what they're doing. But he's like, he portrays himself as someone who can handle himself, but when push comes to shove, he's on the floor first. And he's got a bit of growing up to do. He's got to understand he's a squishy meatbag, and he's not the person front and center like he thinks he is. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of harsh truths coming Silvo's way in the following sessions, I believe. But I absolutely adored it. If you want to find out more about myself, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Peripheral Mike. I'm not streaming right at this moment just because work is mental at the minute, but I am hopefully going to. Now I've got another new setup, thanks Brain. A new setup all working, and everything's kind of plugged in and everything's wired up and for streaming, so I'm hopefully going to dip in and out. But I don't want to force it. I want it to feel right. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. So, but otherwise, just stay awesome and be lovely to each other.
Good stuff. Thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure. Also, always a pleasure to have Dark Saber with us. Saber, good stuff as well from Morthwheel. I liked the idea. I was enjoying the idea when Brian asked you to come over and take care of the one rotten board or whatever, and you're just kind of like grumbling like, no. But you're like, as I'm doing this, I'm pulling out a crowbar. It's like, these people got this stupid. Here's your damn, that type of thing. Because good God. And then also getting a chance to see not only two things that struck me. One, obviously you have this information about Silvo. So, the fact that you've seen Silvo go through some stuff, and that's always on your mind. And also, you have this new figure of Oceanus that you're thinking about, and you're thinking about how to get out of the hull at the same time. So you have both. You have practical concerns on a variety of axes, I guess is my point, that Morth was thinking about. It was fun to see how you were processing all of that, and I cannot wait to see more of that from you. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
It's been a lot of fun again. And yeah, it's interesting how Morthal looks at a situation, because you don't... Imagining the boat built doesn't do you any good, because every plank has to be laid, every rivet has to be hammered in. And these are practical concerns. Just going, yes, we should escape. It's like, okay, how?
Yeah, just through the escape.
Yeah, and then we do that, and then we run into the people who threw us in here. So what then?
Yep.
So trying to factor that into the things that he's basically enabling. He feels a bit like an enabler at the moment. It's like if I'd said something different, maybe we wouldn't be here. If I hadn't said yes at some point, we might have done something more sensible.
What was the curse? Yeah, what was the curse that you used? Like, by the broken belt of Cantabus or something? What did you say?
The broken belt of Bacob.
The broken
he
belt of
Bacob. Because
yeah.
I did a little bit of research on setting up Morthoil, and Bacob, I think, is at least the dwarven god of magic.
Yeah, that's right.
On
That's
Greyhawk.
right, but the
So I was
broken
like, yeah.
belt of Bacav, I was just like,
Yes.
dang.
I'm loving it, because Bacob leads all these really fun alliterative explorations, which I have a lot of fun with.
Yep.
So it's interesting to see just how many more I can keep coming up with.
It was good.
They've got to have the bees, like the blessed beard, the bloody no, not the bloody nose, that wouldn't work. The blessed belly, yeah, all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Broken belts.
Yep.
I think I've got a few more in me still, so it'd be interesting to see what I come out with next.
By the broken belt of Bacav. It was great. I was like, oh, things have gotten real.
Yep. Yeah. I also like the mental image of like an upside down dwarf head with just a face
Yeah,
full
like
of beard going.
I had to see what you'd be being like, oh, and just pull it back. Like, never mind.
But yeah, so it has been a lot of fun again, as always. I do enjoy this a lot, and I'm looking forward to the next time. Although we've got a Talisman next week, if I remember correctly.
Talisman next week, yes.
So I'll be back with most of them, and we'll be coming back to that. But in the meantime, tomorrow I will.
Oh, so we lost somebody. All right, go ahead.
Well, in the meantime, tomorrow I'll be probably taking the excuse that my New Vegas game is the GOG version to carry on playing New Vegas, which I'll also be carrying on my channel on Thursday, because we're on a bit of a roll there right now. They've got a very, very, very nice build. I can even take on Deathclaws now, so that's when you get to the fun part.
Wow,
it's like, oh no, 5 Deathclaws and they're dead.
I don't know whether I can handle the death claws. There we go.
Although Cazadors still suck.
That's good stuff. Always a pleasure. Thanks again, Saber, for Move Button Dashboard as always. I appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Next week, as you say, with Talisman. We will also see, of course, Pyron, whose picture I am frantically recapturing after the departure of Mike. So we got a chance to see. I have to say, one of my favorite parts of this, and it's just because when you see something that clearly does fit, but is not something you usually note. The whole business with being able to understand, because being able to repeat exactly what you hear makes complete sense, obviously. And it was just super cool to be like, oh yeah, you can do that, and just like repeat back the Elvish that you heard, so that then Silva was able to translate it. And I just thought that was super slick. And we had several times actually where you were able to use your ability to listen to things, including, listening up and learning that that's actually a parrot. That's information that not everybody would get, but clearly, a Kenku's going to be able to get it, et cetera, et cetera. It was very eventful. And then the maggot experience, the just like bad memories. Too soon. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
Today's session was good. I mean, it was kind of dungeon crawlery feeling, because we were locked under and in these rooms and all of this. And I like dungeon crawlers, so that's always a plus. And we've got a new companion and all. Let's see how it goes. I like the sessions, and seeing me next would be Thursday with the game, and then Tuesday with Talisman. So it's really fun to be able to just copy sounds. Our.
I listen. I appreciate and know the value of that voice when it's falling, clearly. And so, anyway, but yes, it was enjoyable to hear that happen. So we will see you there. And I will see all these lovely people, including Peripheral Mike, who has vanished somewhat early. But I will see all of those lovely people next week. I will see all of them but Ananda. Ananda I will see next month. But everybody else I will see next week for Talisman Adventures along with Undeveloped Bruce as we continue on with our Talisman Adventures campaign. More Ghosts of Saltmarsh happening next month. Players, wonderful work today. Chat, can we get some love for the amazing players of Peripheral Mike, who's not here anymore, of Pyron Jade, Darksaber 2K, and Ananda. Players, great work, and we will see you folks soon.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
My pleasure as always.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Bye-bye. All right. So, that, folks, is going to do it for us for today on this channel, but we are going to do a raid, not involving that music yet. Hold on, Saltmarsh intro video. We are going to do a raid because we have some people here, and we're going to bring you over to someone who is awesome because I am closing up shop. And you can tell I'm closing up shop because it's dark behind me except for my light panels. As I told you, we're right now in the middle of this. We're sort of in this transitional period where it's a little awkward, where I don't want to start with light because it's bright when I get started and it's closing and I'm being dark at the end. But, you know, a few weeks from now, it will be bright the whole way through, and then I can just leave it without. So it'll be fine. It'll be lovely. But that is going to be the deal for me, and I hope folks enjoyed it. And so I hope you will follow us here on GOG.com's channel, GOG.com's Twitch channel. I hope you will support us by subscribing to us here on GOG.com's Twitch channel as well. And I believe, and Pyron, I think, is going to be able to do this for us, although I guess I could. No, I think I have the ability to do that, too. I can also do a raid. So I think I can do it. I think it's fine. So please subscribe to us on GOG.com because that really does support us. And if you haven't done so already, please click through to our individual channels as well because we have all of our individual subsystems and, you know, and our Patreons and all that kind of stuff happening over on our channels also, and support there would be much appreciated. I'll also mention that at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, I will be back on my channel with my monthly voiceover stream with my voice team, the Art Vocalists, voicing the classic and GOG-provided Planescape Torment. So I'm going to be playing more of Planescape Torment on my channel tonight with the Art Vocalists voicing it. So you will definitely want to stop by for that. If you happen to like role-playing games and D&D related things and stuff like that, you'll definitely want to stop by for that. So that's happening this evening, and then I will be off on my channel Wednesday and Thursday. I'll be back Friday with my space opera game Esper Genesis. If you like this and you like science fiction, you will like that, I predict. And then Saturday on my channel is the classic Golden Sun. I will be back here next Tuesday, right here, for episode 320 of Pen and Pixels as we continue on with Talisman Adventures. But that's going to do it for me for the moment. I'll see you folks hopefully on my channel about an hour and a half. Otherwise, please stick around for the raid. We'll do that as soon as the video is done. And I will see you lovely folks down the line. Until then, everyone, please be good to each other, and I'll catch you all soon. Special thanks as well to my players who are awesome and amazing. Much love to them. Much love to you. I'll see you folks soon. Bye for now.